One drop dilutes an ocean, can't be reversed. One word controls emotion, and this I don't rehearse. Ripples of who you are won't be removed, and I write the words to help the story to conclude. I'm just a storyteller, superstore, shells of overpriced rage. But the words that I'm singing try to escape this rain cage. And one by one, it consumes my chest, filling me with that I can't compete with my rest. One drop dilutes an ocean, can't be reversed. One word controls emotion, and this I don't rehearse. Ripples of who you are won't be removed, and I write the words that help the story to conclude. I'm just a storyteller, superstore, shells of overpriced rage. I'm singing, trying to escape this red cage. And bone by bone, it consumes my chest, filling me with that I can't compete with the rest. One drop dilutes an ocean, can't be reversed. One word controls emotion, and this I don't rehearse. Ripples of who you are won't be removed, and I write the words that help the story to conclude. And how do you say on days like this? Days like this, where has you on days like One drop dilutes the ocean, can't be reversed. One word controls emotion, and this I don't rehearse. Ripples of who you are won't be removed, and I'll make the words to help the story to conclude.
Alright folks, welcome to the Besides the Norm podcast. My name is Scuba. I always do that a bit too quickly. Craig's here as well.
What the fuck is happening, Scoop?
So I'm dying.
Apart from dying.
Aye, I just finished the fags. I'm pretty dead. Jesus. Man. Right, so we've got a big debate to go through in about half an hour. There's a big tour, epic fucking
Definitely
debate.
sitting right next to us.
Oh, they're here right now. Yo, I'm Caz.
A communist.
You could have just been Ron there.
Aye.
Aye,
Could've.
that would have made sense. Did you like my impression of Caz the other day? Well.
It was an amazing impression of going, oh, taxes theft. Oh.
Oh. Ooh.
Oh.
That's my Caz impression. Or bzzz, like a wee fly.
Aye.
There you go. Unless that was a bee. That could be
old school reference.
There
right
you go,
there.
aye, totally, aye.
A fucking year old.
There you go. Fucking brilliant. Anniversary style. Fantastic, man. So, aye, great. We had a brilliant fucking debate recorded yesterday. Going to play it out live to everybody that missed it yesterday. And then afterwards, it'll be put on its own separate podcast, and it'll also be part of this one. So you can check it however way you like. It'll be on fucking SoundCloud and YouTube and stuff like that as well. So you can check it wherever the fuck you like. It's going to be fantastic. So what we thought we'd do, since we've got such a bumper thing to go through, we'd do the news stories first. put the debate on, and then we'll come back for the last half an hour and kind of talk about how it went and stuff like that. So we'll completely deny that the debate happened until it comes on after the next song.
Aye.
Right, so let's talk about news. What you want to talk about, bitch? Let's go.
Obviously, what do you think?
I have one. Well, I know. Next week we're going to start doing this fucking Trump intro thing, because I know it's Donald Trump you want to talk about. We need to create a funny Donald Trump intro.
The guy's just been made president.
He's made me proud this week by being an absolute fucking numpty.
Although he's done a couple of things that I agree with.
Oh fuck.
Oh, controversial.
Oh. He's a bit like a kind of stumbling idiot sometimes. He's like that.
Aye,
he's like Frank Spencer I was thinking about earlier on. He's like, he's just tumbles into things and just has wee bad mistakes now and again.
I quite like
quite
Trump. Trump's... I disagree with him so much, but I like him.
Well, one story I wanted to get out of the way first is someone we covered last week. Mind Shug's community group got burgled into last week.
Have the problems causers been caught and executed?
No, they haven't. No, they haven't been punched in the face.
They haven't been punched in the face
like
either.
the reference to last week. Oh, like
old school reference.
Remember we were talking about a kind of anonymous businessman or a millionaire, or well, we were talking about specifically a comedian, but we'll say that we're talking about an anonymous person giving them money.
Aye.
It happened, bitch.
Oh, was it the same guy?
No, it wasn't the same guy we were talking about. We were talking about Kevin Bridges or Frankie Boy or any other sort of Scottish comedian.
Was it a cunt?
It was a local businessman called Jimmy Simpson.
He's
retired businessman.
Just trying to get in his fucking in the good books.
I think so. Because there's a picture later on that comes. Oh no, it's not in this one. There's another publication they had where it was him in front of his old business passing a check.
What was his business?
Was it? I can't remember.
A brothel.
But it's that one. But they've blurred it out nicely in the East South Mail.
Looks like a taxi company, man.
I can't. Well, is that just because he's yelling? There's numbers there. Brilliant.
Yeah, some racist towards taxi
it looks a bit like it was a wee business opportunity for him. He's a retired businessman, but that's not to say he's got. But that's not to say he still doesn't get made money from the company.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like he maybe makes some.
That's nice, though.
But they got $2,000 for this guy, and they're back up and running.
How much was stolen, though?
About a couple of grand. I think Shug said last week.
Right.
So it's interesting. The money's back in. I think they're having like a kind of a late Burns night tonight or something.
Still though, didn't he steal for fucking
No.
community groups and chat?
Shug says they've got a pile of donuts enough to sink a ship. Which, if you think about it, what size of ship are they talking about? I don't know, but it's a lot of fucking donuts. Aye.
You sink that fucker with a donut?
We could sink it quite easily by debunking the whole fucking idea behind the Bible.
That,
so you didn't need
That's
any
probably
donuts.
easier than buying a donut.
You need no donuts. Donuts are not heavy things. So there's going to be a lot of donuts involved there.
Dry though.
I don't know. They might have sauce-based donuts.
Have you ever tried to eat a donut with its milk?
Yes.
Well, you're mental.
You very rarely have milk to hand when you're just out at the Mercat in Kirkcaldy. Very rarely.
Well, there's no free milk cartons and stuff.
No, but free milk. Do you think it's a primary skill that's running at the
Socialist
Mercat?
utopia we're meant to be saying, Stephen. Free
Unfortunately,
milk for all.
Unfortunately, that's not
Fuck
the way
a universal
Kirkcaldy
basic income. Free milk.
It's not the way Kirkcaldy works. Unfortunately,
Oh,
you're going to get free
unfortunate.
milk for just being in the Mercat. It doesn't work that way.
You need some sort of benefit. For
There you go.
being in America.
Another interesting thing happened this week. Pub giant Weatherspoons has pulled out of leaving as town is too small.
Didn't even know there were Weatherspoons.
They bought the old the pub, the Three Ways Inn. Remember that?
Nope.
Dad used to work there years ago, but he was like fitting fences and stuff. They bought that place to do it up, and they've decided to say, fuck it, the town's too wee. There's not going to be much people coming. It's great, innit? They're just decided...
Also, there's also like although they couldn't fucking realise that before they bought the place.
Aye, which I thought was funny. But there's no mention of that in this fucking annoying story. So I thought maybe they've got to a point where they've been like, nah, this is costing too much for probably no much a turnover that we're expecting. Maybe we'll just leave it.
They've got fucking... What was that pub we used to go into? And leaving.
The Windsor.
Windsor. The Windsor's fine.
Aye.
Yeah, there's an old man pub a wee bit up the road.
Aye, the Old House or something.
That's Windigates, isn't it?
Oh fuck no, sorry Ken. There's someone that always...
Doesn't matter, Weatherspoons are stupid.
Aye.
How could they not ken this tune was too wee for them?
I don't know. I don't know if they've been to the Cali on a Saturday or Brannigan's or something, but I think that's probably their point. Brannigan's and Cali's.
We've got Brannigan's,
McPhail's as well,
and the Cali, and the Windsor.
And the Windsor, aye. Because most of them are full on a Saturday night anyway.
No,
I've never been out.
Again, it just shows that they're stupid for even trying.
There you go.
Unless they assumed that we're Wetherspoons, folk are going to come here.
Aye. I think they did.
Nobody gives a fuck.
Because that's what it's like in Kirkcaldy. Everybody goes to Wetherspoons in Kirkcaldy before they go out. So everybody has a drink in the house before they go out. So they go to Wetherspoons to have a drink before they go out. Then they go out to Kay's after it. Fantastic. It's a great way to work.
Scotland, isn't it?
It's such Scotland. It's such Scotlandness. So we've had a fantastic week of Trump. Just to kind of squeeze through the news as quick as we can. Because we've only got half an hour to talk about
I
some
want
of
to
this
talk
stuff.
about Brexit first, though.
Okay.
Because we talk about America all the time, so let's talk about the UK. Folk are going mental about Brexit. And I don't know why. And here's the problem, right? They keep talking about soft Brexit and hard Brexit. They didn't exist. It's just either Brexit or no. So, Brexit, which I didn't support, is exiting the EU.
Right.
And the argument is that soft Brexit is leaving the EU but staying in the single market and having access to the open borders policy of the EU to get free movement of people. Which to me isn't leaving the EU, it's renegotiating the terms that you're in the EU. Whereas hard Brexit is leaving the EU. So my argument is that hard and soft Brexit is based on what the governments do with the law after we've left. That's so a soft Brexit would be the fact that countries within the EU are legally obliged to only trade with other countries in the EU. That's not how it works. So realistically speaking, the UK can still have access to trade with every single country in the EU. They might not, because of how the Brexit campaign was run, which then means that you're not arguing against leaving the EU, you're arguing against the cunts that were in the Leave campaign. Not us, who weren't there. And then you've got the argument of free movement of people. There's no laws that you only need to accept people that aren't in the EU, or that people in the EU can only go to countries inside the EU. So again, you can still have free movement of people. It's just that the Tories are refusing it. So hard and soft Brexit is fuck what we do with Brexit. It's something to do with fucking the fact we've got Tories involved. So can people maybe start like being realistic about their arguments instead of just conflating it with everything else? It appears that people didn't really ken anything about the EU.
Well, this is the problem. Nobody kens anything. This is what happens all the time. There's a lot of people that don't really understand what they're talking about.
Well,
Jimmy Carr, for instance, keeps making jokes about hard Brexit. It was, I'll get hard Brexit. Graham Norton made the same joke. It was about, hard cocks. You hard cock joke about Brexit.
Oh, God,
This is what happens all the fucking time. This is just all these kind of same people.
But then,
do that shit.
fucking Theresa May could easily explain that. She got moaned at because she kept saying Brexit means Brexit. That means fucking nothing.
And there was a Korean that was on, like, breakfast means breakfast or something to that same shirt.
Fucking say things properly. Brexit means Brexit. Oh, fuck. Just say Brexit means that we leave the EU. That's what it means. Soft Brexit doesn't exist. Hard Brexit doesn't exist. We either leave the EU or we didn't leave the EU. That doesn't mean to say that leaving the EU means we're never going to have access to any country that's in the single market. And it doesn't mean that we're never going to have access to anybody that lives in the EU. That's just what the Tories decided isn't going to happen. And that's nothing to do with leaving the EU or not. As a Lexit cunt, I fully supported trade with people inside the EU, and I fully support the movement of people, which is why I voted to leave, because the EU fucks it makes it harder for the rest of the people to work with other people that are in the EU. God, that was winded. And now, annoying thing, again, is that Scotland still are arguing as if they've got a voice inside the UK for some reason. Are they forgetting that we just got dismissed 2 years ago?
It's great that kind of we moan about not having a voice, but we'd like to have that voice anyway. We like to kind of put our opinions forward.
Well, vote for it.
But nobody listens.
Vote for it. They had a chance to have their say in 2014. They fucking voted no. Now that they've voted no, we're stuck in the fucking UK and we didn't have a voice. We have the UK's voice, of which we're a tiny fucking wee tiny micro penis on the end of Britain, right? So we get the tiny micro penis voice, and that means nothing because the majority, England, can vote against us. And then we lose.
Alright, as much as I say it every time, I'd love to see the faces of people that are like, oh, I've not got a voice, and that, but they voted no. I'd love to just look them in that in the fucking...
They voted against their voice.
Yeah?
So they voted against their voice. What the fuck are they doing? And you can't, just shut the fuck up at this point. No. Or say, right, I fucked up, we've not got a voice now, let's get on with the fucking second independence referendum. Let's get the fucking ball rolling a wee bit. Mon SNP, get the fucking finger out your arse. Just say we're going to be independent. And also, didn't just make it about the EU either. Or we need to leave the UK in order to get access to the EU. Didn't fucking frame it like that either. Because that's going to turn people off. Just be realistic. Just say we're going to leave the UK and then we're going to be an independent Scotland. And that's it. That's all you need to say. But no! She's just going to fucking flunder about. Like, oh, we need to get a special voice for Scotland. Fuck off, cunt. We're not going to get it. Just fucking do what you need to... There's one fucking option left. And she's like, oh, we need to get the best voice for Scotland. You're being a fucking annoying voice for Scotland now. Do something
Stop
real.
being your voice, man.
You're fucking ruining my brain cells now. Fuck off, cunt.
You got shout out us every week to big giant Christopher, the giant human that is Christopher. And Billy, who's slightly smaller than
Who's
Christopher.
Billy?
Billy Allen. No, is it Allen? I come in just saying him. Shit, am I right or wrong? Tell me, Billy. I reckon.
Who's Billy?
I can't remember. Billy is a guy of that. Wait, I'll wait to explain this perfectly. There was my old flatmate. Mind we had Dwayne and Dave. Billy is, I think, Dave's cousin. I should remember these things because I've seen them loads of times. I should remember this shit. I'm sure I'm right. We'll find out in a minute, hopefully, but Giant Christopher has his fingers at the keyboard, probably doing right now.
Unless it's Big Chris and Small Billy, and that's a euphemism for Big Christopher's Small Billy.
There you go. It could be.
It could be
well
a thing.
Let's talk about Trump anyway. We need to hurry up.
We've got 10 minutes.
Aye.
We could go 5 minutes there.
I suppose aye. So it doesn't matter too much.
Right. So will I just go on, or do you want to...
Go, man, just go. I've pretty much got the same points as you.
Aye.
But I've got more.
He's started plans for his border wall, which the day after he was announced to be president, he admitted that it was unrealistic and it was going to be a fence instead. But now he's changed his mind again and it's going to be a wall.
He's fucking adamant as well that it's going to be a wall.
He's absolutely... He can't
He
just...
put it on Twitter, that means fucking business right there.
He can't just no date now. That's been his main thing. And it's fucking stupid. First of all, it's stupid because most immigrants from Mexico got there by overstaying their work visas or tourist visas or whatever. So they got there on planes, which are higher than walls.
Yes, they go a wee bit higher.
They get air the wall.
Depends how high he's building the wall.
They even need to go through the... They go air it.
They go air it as well.
Mental.
What if they get things that dig under?
But they've also got underground tunnels.
There you go.
It's where, again, most of them come.
Is he going to build a wall in the dirt?
Well, here's the thing. The wall goes 7 feet under the floor.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I
could dig further than 7 feet.
So it's going to stop all the Mexicans except all the walls that are under 7 feet or above 7 feet.
No.
Technically under because it's a tunnel, so under 7 feet.
No.
Which at most are.
I could dig further than 7 feet.
Also, if you're under the floor, you've got plenty of time to dig through a tunnel, haven't you?
Aye, totally.
Have they not got hammers?
I'm sure they will.
Aye,
sure
how are they digging?
The other side of the hammer.
Right.
The claw bit, the claw end.
So, that's stupid. And it's also costing them about $30 billion. So that's the thing.
No,
That's a
couple
fucking massive waste of time. And also, there's more people going to Mexico than coming from Mexico to the US. So, that's a whole entire fucking waste of stupid resources and time. And just first example that Trump is a fucking mutant.
Just to let everybody know, it was Billy Allen. I'm not a big stupid cunt. There you go. Continue on.
Second executive order that I've got a thing on. Well, no, it's not an executive order. He likes torture, Trump. Trump
Loves
likes
it, loves
torture. He's into a wee bit of torture. maybe in his private life as well. Who am
I
I
was
to judge?
just thinking that, man. Just thinking.
Who am I to judge?
Few paper clips in his balls and that.
Aye. So basically, torture was banned in the US. In what year? Do you want to have a guess?
1970, not 97, not report.
97.
Aye.
Close enough, 2009.
Fuck off.
So,
That is fucking insane.
waterboard.
Jesus Christ.
Waterboarding and other sort of mental interrogation techniques were officially banned in 2009.
The insane ones.
Were officially banned in 2009 by Barack Obama. But Barack Obama has said that Osama bin Laden was found due to information from somebody who was waterboarded. Osama was found in 2011.
No.
So there's a good chance
Oh,
that there was
God.
still torture happening after 2009.
Because I'm sure if you might remember correctly, they only found out like a few days before that he was in that
It was
part
something
of
like
wherever he was.
And I would imagine there's been some sense.
Of course there is.
It's unrealistic to claim
I
there hasn't been.
waterboarded 3 people just before starting the podcast
Exactly,
today.
but you were paid by the US government, so it's fine.
Exactly.
Do you think the UK's still doing torture at some points? I reckon.
As I say, I just finished the
the
interview.
secret organisations like MI5 and CIA and all that, guaranteed.
They have to
They
be.
must be fucking doing some sort of shit.
Ah.
But it didn't work. So
You
it's
could
fucking
always
stupid.
outlaw shit like that as well, but it still fucking happens. Of course,
It
everything
is
happens.
outlawed.
Aye,
That's the point. They didn't care at this point.
No.
Who's going to catch the MI5?
exactly.
Nobody. So that's fucking stupid. That's pretty much all I've got.
But I've got
I could
the,
have made them last much longer, but we've got a debate today, so
I've got the full list of executive orders, but I'm probably not going to be able to get through them.
there's only
Shit.
like 5.
We genuinely have like 5 minutes.
Well, we'll just go
To
through
go.
them quickly.
No, I'm saying like we have like 5 minutes and we've got like a song to play in that time as well.
Oh, shite.
Right. We'll maybe cover it. We'll cover it.
Just
when I come
list
back.
them quickly and we'll talk about them when you come back.
Well, basically, there's it's like long explanations. There's no list. We'll explain them. We'll go into more depth.
Well,
when we
he's
come
done a
back.
thing to get Dapple and Keystone Pipeline back.
Oh yeah, there you go.
He's started a thing to get rid of refugees, 0 refugees for Syria, cutting down the allotted number of refugees from 110,000 to 50,000.
He also signed a notice that the US will begin withdrawing from the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade
That's
Deal.
the thing I agree with him on, by the way.
Right. Trump called the order a great thing for the American worker. Do you think so as well?
He's stopping
You're a
international.
fucking fascist now. That's what you are.
He's stopping international funding for abortion.
An order imposing a hiring freeze for some federal government workers as a way to shrink the size of government.
No, that's not going to last.
This excludes the military, as Trump noted at the signing. An order that directs federal agencies to ease the regulatory burdens of Obamacare. It orders agencies to waive, defer, grant exemptions from or delay the implementation of any provision or requirement of Obamacare that imposes a fiscal burden on any state, or a cost, fee, tax penalty or regulatory burden on individuals, families, healthcare providers, health insurers, patients, recipients of healthcare services, purchasers of health insurance or makers of medical devices, products or medications.
See, the thing is that if you read that properly, that could quite easily just ban insurance. Because insurance companies pay for folks' healthcare by using the money that they got from other people that are paying for insurance. Most of the time your insurance isn't covered by the amount of payments you've given. Your insurance is covered by
the company.
Loads of people buying coverage and most people not needing the coverage. So that's other people paying for your Medicare, which means that law could feasibly just outlaw insurance. It will not, because they've no thought about it.
Yeah.
But that could be worded in a way that just outlaws insurance.
And it's amazing that just in the first few days he's just got all his big things out the way, which is kind of what he said he was wanting to do anyway, just get them all out and done with. And it seems like the next few months it's just going to be, right, cool, I don't care about doing anything else anywhere. I've already put the people on the projects that I want to get started. The wall and shit. He's got the people, like you said, within like a month or so, they're going to actually start preparation to get the wall done.
Aye, he said within months.
Aye. He kind of screwed his word on it,
But I reckon what that means.
It's mental anyway.
So I see. I told you we can get through the fucking things.
Aye, sorry man, sorry. I just had no vision into that at all.
You need
I'm a time warrior, man. I worry about time.
You need to believe in yourself.
There you go.
Needs to happen.
This is we're going to play a tune now. This is St. Phoenix with King.
Control my destiny. I'm not the man I used to be. Tonight it's here for everyone to see. I will be king. I just wanna scream that nothing's what it seems. I just keep believing one day I'll be king. Singing la la la. I ain't going nowhere. You can't break me down. One day I'll be king.
Alright folks, we're going to get into this debate now. This is a debate we held yesterday between Ron Cuthbert and Caz Paul. Basically it's a kind of socialism versus capitalism debate. It's quite interesting. It's on for about 2 hours. It's a long one, man. But keep in for the long run. It's so fucking great. They're just a pair of sarcastic cunts to each other, and it's great to listen to. It's always fantastic. So here we go. This is the debate between Caz and Ron. Enjoy.
What's happening, cuntoids? Yeah. You've never heard the podcast, have you?
No, I wasn't expecting that to be the start.
Welcome to the BTN podcast. I'm Monk. I'm hosting because we've only got 3 mics. So Stephen can say hello, but you're not going to hear him.
Hello.
See, you didn't hear him. Today we're doing a sort of debate of sorts. They're pals, so I reckon how fierce the debate's going to be. They might just laugh at each other's jokes, I reckon.
It's generally what happens. The fist fights haven't happened yet.
You've been on here a few times.
I have. I'm a frequent flyer now. I think. They get air points or something. Yeah, it's a loyalty card.
You get the same as everybody else.
Fantastic.
Equally nothing.
Sounds like socialism.
The levels seem a bit high, lad.
Not mine.
Where they're gone high as
Yeah, when I
fuck.
laugh, it tends to shoot right up.
That's fine. It's sorted, man.
Cool. So I need to clear things up. I'm a socialist. Caz knows I'm a socialist, so I'm obviously not impartial in this debate. But in the interest of the podcast being impartial, I'm going to shut the fuck up.
Pretty
I'm
good
gonna-
devil's advocate though, mate.
Aye.
Yeah.
I'm going to send specific things your way in the course of the conversation,
Okay.
but mostly it'll be you two just digging at each other, I would imagine,
Perfect.
and making
Sounds
jokes.
good.
I know for when you've been on, we've had digs at each other. Like if something comes up and it seems to go in one way, we'll hear dig at each other, so that's funny. I can imagine it's going to be more with you two.
Yeah, we're
How long have you known each other?
5 years.
Oh yeah.
When did Kingdom Adventure open? 'Cause it was shortly after that we met.
I think that was probably six years ago.
Yeah. It'd been open for a while before I sort of started coming along.
Well, I think I was 22 when I started, and I'm 31 now.
Yeah.
So
Oh, for your shop?
yeah, well, from the gaming community standpoint in Kirkcaldy anyway.
Right.
From when Kingdom Adventure opened, which was one of the first kind of main sort of friend of local gaming stores that opened up. I started working there and got to know the community that way. And it was also a comic book store. And Ron is a comic aficionado.
Yeah, collector, obsessor. And
All round nerd.
Yeah,
when it
that's
comes
me.
To, yeah. So we got on pretty well, pretty much immediately. And he's sarcastic and a bit of a cunt. So we're both pretty much cut for the same cloth.
I have noticed he's cunt this
yeah.
when you put up things that he quite obviously either disagrees with or disagrees with just enough to be a cunt.
Just enough to be a cunt.
He can
That's
just
it.
find a tiny bit he disagrees
Yeah.
with to be a cunt.
Even
Yeah.
if I don't particularly disagree, but if I know it to be a cunt, I'll still do it.
Yeah, totally. But is it? I'm going to just say all this on his behalf. He's one of these people that I kind of like myself in the fact that is not judged by the content of his Facebook page, but by the content of his character. Because this is one of these things we both get blocked, don't we?
Yeah, by liberals.
By liberals, and by right wingers as well, and So we're no strangers to this.
It's what happens when you're a troublemaker.
That's pretty much it.
So edgy.
We're edgelords.
Everything you believe in is wrong.
That's it. Yeah. So the existential crisis is about to unfold. Yeah.
Right, so Ron, you're a socialist.
I am. Full on ANCOM.
Right, nice.
Anarchist, communist, Stalinist. I've been given a lot of labels.
Is there any labels that are wrong that you still keep getting called?
Yeah, I get called straight quite a lot.
Which we all know isn't true.
I get called a liberal, a loony lefty. People have called me a fascist.
I've been called that a few times now.
I put on a post quite a few months ago, we were talking about this. I put on a post basically saying, look, Obama isn't a saint, he's horrible, he's a murderer, he's killed children and innocent women, all in the name of resources and oil. And because I posted that, I was like, Trump's biggest crime is being a cunt. And
being a bad man.
Yeah, being horrible and unpleasant. I don't like him, but he's
And a
not.
shite haircut.
So far, he hasn't actually.
It's a fucking awesome haircut, you take that.
And I got accused of being a far right supporting prick, and I was like, look, I'm not far right, I'm like a socialist again.
Yeah. This is the climate these days, though. It's
Yeah.
like, right wing is now a kind of pejorative for politics I don't like. So
Yeah.
if you see something that you disagree with, the people automatically think it's right wing.
Yeah, I've found it very hard to fit into this left wing, right wing thing.
Yeah, it's
I
difficult.
still go with left wing because that's the closest I can find, but I look for the alt left, which seem to be just people that are sort of left wing, that hate immigrants, that appear to be the crux of what they believed in. So
Right.
I've not really found a place that I could label myself with one thing and it fits. It's just
And I think
But
what
where I
ties
was,
into it is that, as a generalisation, the right are really into logic. And although I don't necessarily agree with their conclusions, what they are willing to do, and it's why they're doing so well now, is they'll go, here's some things that I believe, and here's some bullet points for you to read.
Yeah.
And the left go, if you don't agree with me, you're racist.
I totally agree with that. I absolutely
Yeah.
agree with that. There's a group called Sensible Debates, which is
Does it never happen?
ironic. It's ironic in itself. There's a guy, I'm going to fucking name him, fuck it, Simon. I didn't know his second, I can't
Fuck you,
remember.
Simon.
Coming for you,
I think it's
Simon.
maybe Simon Wright. Again, ironic.
Dox this motherfucker.
Aye. And some subjects I could disagree with him and be like, well, you really got logical there. You really were rational and went with the points. And then there's people who I probably agree with on the subjects, just fucking emotions at him. And I'm like, oh, you're fucking ruining your life.
Yeah.
Just shut the fuck up.
Well,
and then there's
yeah.
other occasions where he'll just do the exact same thing because he disagrees with someone.
Yeah.
I'm like, how could you be so rational in some sense?
Well, this seems to be the tactics these days. It's character assassinations as opposed to real sort of reasoned arguments. I mean, I can't fathom a single reason why Trump could be considered the racist one when Obama's been bombing brown kids for the for the best part of a decade. I don't quite find out the dynamic, and that's the problem. Is you've got to force people who make these arguments into actually coming up with
looking at the harsh
good
truth,
looking at the harsh truth of the situation, and then coming up with a reasonable rebuttal that isn't he's a racist, he's a Nazi, he's a fascist. Because what it does is creates this kind of narrative or this kind of climate in which punching somebody in the face for their ideas is considered totally cool.
Yeah. I don't think I remember the last time I heard the word racist used as an insult where I've agreed with the argument.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it means anymore.
Hyperbole at this point.
Yeah, they've lost all meaning to these platitudes.
Yeah, it's absolutely the last thing that I thought when people said this is racist, and I was like, you know what, you're right, it's horrible. Was when the French basically said, yeah, you're not wearing a burkini, and on the beach, and we're going to point a gun at you and make you strip in front of all these people.
Yeah,
like, you're targeting that woman because of our culture, which is silly.
Yeah,
and I was like, yeah, that's definitely racist. That's horrible. We shouldn't be doing it. And then when you look at the statistics, how many black people get shot by the police in America, it is disproportionately high, and it's because the police are disproportionately cruel to black people because they can get away with it. But I think that's maybe a symptom of poverty than necessarily race.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, if you want to take the argument that police have to deal with black people, or the way that police deal with black people in general is considered worse, but you've also got to take on the very real fact that a lot of poor, desperate communities happen to be black communities too.
Yeah.
And people in poor, desperate situations tend to do desperate things and need to require an awful lot of quote unquote policing. Yeah. And things like that. But you don't want to put, and it's like I would totally agree with you from the perspective of when you're talking about something being racist. Trump I don't think is racist by any stretch of the imagination, whereas I do think something like the EU's policy on when
whites only basically
well, they're not only just their free movement policy but their trade policy when they're forcing developing countries, funnily enough full of black and brown people, to sit on masses and piles and piles and piles of crops because the bananas aren't straight enough, or because they don't smell right, or some other bollocks that protects basically a country full of white people.
Yeah.
A nation state with members of which are predominantly white. That to me is racist, but you don't want to, but it's really that's how I've been finding a lot of my tactics these days when I'm arguing with the left is you use language that they generally don't. You use language they generally don't like. Yeah. When I'm especially when you're talking about things like they go off to defend the EU and they call people who are worried about immigration racist.
Yeah.
And I turn around and say, well, what about the common agricultural policy, which basically shits on everybody, all the nearby
all the farms in the world.
Yeah, all the farms in the world, apart from the wealthy white ones.
Yeah.
It's at that point they don't have a leg to stand on, and then they call me an
They just make the surface of left v right, racist versus non-racist, when it's a lot more nuanced. Because there is absolutely a left-wing argument for immigration. I think I've told you this before. And my thing is that in a perfect world, borders are nonsense. You just go where they want. Your skill should be your passport.
Yeah.
If you're needed somewhere, you can go.
Extremely libertarian point of view you've got there.
Generally, when I do political compass tests, are based on sort of what I'd like the world to look like. They always put me in the bottom left-hand corner.
Right.
So you're a social libertarian.
Yeah, essentially. I wouldn't really... I was joking about when I said, if I die during the revolution, please remember me as the anarchist I want to be. The Marxist-Leninists I've had to become. To achieve anarchism. So if you have uncapped immigration, if you say all these people who are desperate and poor and hungry, and it's largely their fault you're desperate and poor and hungry, come here if you like. You take skilled people away from countries who need these skilled people, but you also devalue labour in the countries they go to. So you can absolutely say, I feel so horrible that we have such an unequal and uneven world, but as a socialist, as a member of a political party who operates within Scotland, I need to look out for the people I've got a mandate over, which is the working class in Scotland. So I'm going to have to say, sorry, we can't let you in just now, unless you are fleeing war and poverty, we will look after
Sure.
you because we started it. But if you're just coming here because you want to work, which is absolutely admirable, it might be better if you apply your skills at home because people need you there.
Yeah,
And I'll get
there
accused-
certainly is an argument for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get accused as being a fascist for saying that, and it's like,
Yeah.
I want open borders for everybody, but right now that's not sustainable.
Well, that's a lot of the argument from a lot of the paleo-libertarians and that I circle with. These are guys that are basically libertarians in the economical sense, but they're still kind of socially conservative. I thought we already had a word for those people, which was conservatives. But then again, they're talking about the idea of we can't have open borders because we have the welfare state, which they become a drain on. I was like, well, that's an argument against the welfare state, not immigration. And then they say, oh well, we don't want all the communists coming in here and voting for big government and
Let the communists in.
and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, that's an argument against democracy, not immigration. If your idea can be eradicated simply by the movement of some people to another place, then how good an idea was it in the first place? That's essentially where it comes to for that. But I want to go back on what you said on immigration, because there is this idea of that if you have people kind of coming in and taking our jobs, if you like. Well, that's actually a good thing. You want people to come in and take the jobs, because generally speaking, immigrants dominate the top end and the bottom end of the labour skill market. They're really, really good at the bottom end in terms of the toil in the fields, and they're also really good at the top end in terms of fixing us and putting us back together and coming up with really, really good financial solutions and making good investments and these types of things. So where us squishy white Westerners fit in is the nice middle bell curve where we like sitting on the phone and working for the man. That's what we're really good at. We are pretty good at that. So what that does is if we have an influx of immigration, yes, it denies another country that skilled labour and all that kind of thing. But generally, if they're fleeing that country in order to try and find something better, then that country's not offering them. What there's a lot of the time when you're talking about somebody fleeing from somewhere where they can't work is because they're restricted. They physically can't do it. There's a community of people in a country in Africa whose name escapes me, and they have trouble building homes. That's just what they do, and they've come up with this. They've got a hold of this machine, and it's a machine that basically prints bricks one at a time out of clay in the ground, and it does it one at a time. And there's one guy, and he's started his own firm. He's got a hold of one of these machines. He's then started hiring people to start coming in and using the machine, and he's building houses and then starting to actually make a difference within it. Now they could get a hold of a machine that does tens of these bricks at a time, but it belongs to the local government, and the local government won't let them use it. It's got to do with building regulations and all these types of things, and the way that so this guy can quite happily make clay huts for people, but he can't make safe, affordable houses for people using proper methods because he's completely restricted by his government.
Totally.
So the deregulation is the point that I'm going with that one. So if we have this attractive idea of a deregulated market where people could come in and they could earn whatever it is they need in order for them to sustain their, to pursue their lives in a comfortable and happy way, then what they'll do is they'll provide a net benefit to the country that they move to, because it frees us up to start businesses, to become painters, to start our own podcasts, to things like that.
But I was mostly referring to that with skilled workers.
Yeah.
And you brought up it perfectly, the guy with the brick machine. Because he will make a fairly good living, living in Africa, printing bricks, employing people to print bricks to provide, while not ideal housing. And it's better than what they had before.
That's correct, yeah.
Now, he could absolutely go, I'm going to go to the UK and sell organic bricks for £100 a pop to fucking ridiculous hippies.
Yeah.
And his life would be so much better, he'd have a much higher standard of life.
That's right.
But he'd be depriving his home of the brick machine.
That's right.
And that's what I was sort of getting at, that
of course, you're right in that
come
way.
in here,
Yeah.
they can undercut labour and also deprive.
That's right.
And it's really unfortunate. Whereas if we had a society where there was much easier access to resources and improvement for everybody, people wouldn't even need to move if they didn't want to. And if they did, it would be fine because it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter, yeah. I think essentially what it boils down to is that Ron and I are looking for a very similar, if not the same, utopian outlook, but we have different methods of actually getting there.
Yeah.
You know, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong at any point, Ron, is that you want to, you know, you want the wealth to be created up until a certain point, and then that point, revolution. And then after the revolution, there would be no need for capitalism at all, because everybody would have what they need. But from my perspective, when we're looking for a classless, classless and stateless society,
Totally.
I would say that, you know, at which point, what brings me to a question I've been wanting to ask for you know, quite a while and on air, is that if capitalism is this exploitative kind of sort of top-down oppressive regime, wouldn't you want to embrace as much of it as possible in order to kickstart the revolution faster?
Absolutely, 100% absolutely, because you're right on the money. Even Marx spoke about how necessary capitalism actually is. Humanity, it's something I speak about quite a lot, and we spoke about it with the fuel. I was like, I can't sit on a country that has benefited for hundreds of years of imperialism and go, fucking savages.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why can't you just have my lifestyle
Yeah.
that I got from plundering you?
Yeah.
Capitalism absolutely has its place in history.
Sure.
Humanity needs it to develop.
Yeah.
And there are countries that aren't as developed as us.
Well,
who
that's
need it
that.
as well.
That's the thing is that you're quite right. You know, that's how I feel a lot about, you know, especially when you're talking about the left wing and socialist parties, is they look at the working class in that way. It's not a case of they sit on their imperial island and look at the other countries and go savages. They sit on their kind of middle class, privileged lifestyle, if you want to call it that, and look down at the working class and go, oh man, we really need to fix these people. And that's where the disconnect comes from me when it comes to the left-wing parties, is they look at the working class as a disease to be cured, rather than allowing them to emancipate themselves and then create wealth for themselves and the others around them by sheer manner of
liberal
I'm
parties,
an own.
like Labour and the American Democrats.
Yeah.
But having attended, because I've been in Solidarity now for about 9 months.
Yeah.
And I've drifted between parties and sort of movements before then. Every member who sits at the table when I go to my Solidarity meetings are members of the working class.
Right.
Where I've been, you know, Craig, my dad, Bill Mayer, these are people who, you know, sell their labour. Or have sold it. Some of them are retired now.
Sure.
And they aren't looking down on the working class saying, I am working class and this is my movement. I think a lot of momentum is like that. The Jeremy Corbyn faction within Labour.
Sure.
Whereas Labour as a whole, and the Democrats in America basically use the working class as tokens. And you're absolutely right on that. And you're right, my idea is that, and I say it's my idea, it's Marx's idea, is that eventually capitalism has its place. It absolutely develops humanity, it drags people out of poverty, but eventually it begins to stagnate. And when it stagnates, it turns into corporatism.
So, where do we see this Marxist theory on capitalism becoming into practice? Because at this point, I mean, surely if capitalism got to the point where there was so much wealth that was created, eventually it would start to stagnate, then surely the revolution would have happened by now. Because every country where even just a small amount of free market capitalism, and I'm talking about free market capitalism, not crony capitalism, not cronyism, nepotism, all these types of things which always invariably involve government. I'm talking about free market capitalism from any country that's embraced it has always ended up better than countries that haven't. So you look at India, China and Vietnam right now. Within the past 2 or 3 decades, they've embraced more free market capitalist policies within their structure and within their economic policy. And those three countries by themselves have almost halved absolute poverty in the world since the end of the 1990s, beginning of the 1990s. And that's because people are, as the free market capitalism provides people the pathways to become self-sufficient and capitalise on their own ownership. Because I think where socialism falls down for me specifically is because socialism is not really a philosophy. It's a political tactic. It's a strategy to apply to a situation.
Sure.
And the problem I have with it is it runs contradictory to a fundamental principle of mine and a lot of libertarians and objectivists, which is that you don't own yourself. And as a result, you don't own everything that you produce as a result of yourself. And that's what capitalism is very, very essence, and why it's so compatible with philosophies such as libertarianism or anarcho-capitalism, and why that marriage exists so well is because it's really the only system with any semblance of morality from that perspective. Because at the very, very core of it, boiled right down to the bare bones, capitalism is about self-ownership. And if we can come to the conclusion that I own myself 100%, you own yourself 100%, Craig owns himself 100%, and neither of us are entitled to anybody else's body and the production of that body and the circumstances or the consequences of that body being that self-ownership, being part of a self-ownership. And that's where it falls down for me, is that socialism expects an entitlement of at least some of that labour. And, you know, whether that be from a state perspective or from a revolutionary perspective or from some kind of collectivist conglomerate kind of perspective. Sure. That's how it runs contrary to the philosophy. It doesn't run contradictory to the political strategy of anarcho-capitalism, because in an anarcho-capitalist society, you're free to set up whatever society you want. And you can, if you wanted to set up a society, and if you wanted to set up, for example, Ankomistan, the country, the competing Ankomistan, competing with Libertopia and Ancapistan and all these other competing towns, you can quite happily set up your own social welfare systems. You can set up whatever system that you wanted in order for you to survive. But people would also be free to leave.
Yeah, totally.
Which brings me to the next point is...
Oh no, because you made about 7 points.
All right, yeah,
okay.
okay. Yeah, sure, go for it.
Right, let's start from the top. So Marxist sort of theory of capitalism. Yeah. Obviously the world is uneven in terms of development. So we had the free market process during Marx's lifetime, during the Victorian era.
Yeah.
And what we've seen happen in the last 200 years is that innovation is banned, essentially, because government and corporations have merged.
Of course,
and that is a huge issue. So what happens is if I say, look, I've got this brilliant idea for a book.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to write this book.
Let's call it, tell you what, let's meet some common ground. Let's call it a combustion engine. Yeah. You invent a combustion engine that doesn't require any kind of fuel to run. You could basically just run, it's an engine, it runs on air.
It's a brilliant, I've made this engine, and I've done it because people in the past have created oil-based engines, and I've been able to innovate on that. What happens now, though, is that the corporations backed by the government are able to go, that's based on our engine, you can't fucking make it.
Yeah.
And we're quite happy to have the oil one, so we're never going to release this innovative one. That's when capitalism starts to stagnate. When people aren't free to innovate and create wealth by themselves and have to sell every idea they have to a government-backed corporation.
Yeah. But isn't that the problem isn't the problem in that formula the government, not necessarily the system that the government is exploiting? Because that there is the exploitation of the system. Because when you have,
I would argue that the government and the corporations are just two sides of the same coin, and that's where the issue is.
Well, yeah, they are in some respects, but I mean, when you're talking about the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie, I would argue you're fighting the wrong bourgeoisie. Because these corporations that are enabled to essentially attain monopolies become one of the 6 conglomerates of the world that actually run pretty much everything. What we talk about, it's ridiculous. Brilliant. It's like there's like 6 conglomerates.
One of them's Disney,
and one of them's Disney. One of them's Nestle, for fuck's sake. And so basically one of the 6 conglomerate corporations that basically rule us make chocolate. Let's look at that one. But but that marriage is the problem, because what happens is these conglomerates exist from the perspective of, these conglomerates exist from the perspective of the marketplace isn't fair. They've been given leg ups by government. Regulations have been passed down by government that corner markets in big government's in big business's favour. This is why big business actually loves big government socialism. If you want to look at it from the new Labour kind of democratic, the quote, the Fisher Price socialism that you're being sold to by the MSM. These guys love this kind of idea, because what it does is it looks at social justice, and then it looks at the solution of social justice to be regulation, and that never works. What it essentially does is you're cornering the market. You take a regulation, for example, like the minimum wage, which sounds like an absolutely brilliant idea, and what you've essentially done is you've denied people whose labour isn't worth £8 an hour the ability to get a job, because it's illegal to pay you. So that hurts the working class, and then you've got the other problem, whereas these big companies that can afford to pay everybody, they can afford to adhere to these minimum wages and raise people's wages, and the small businesses can't. So those small businesses the owners have to then exploit their own labour more in order to try and make more sacrifices and more risks and all these types of things in order to sustain their business. And these big companies get so many regulations passed in their favour by the politicians that they lobby in order for them to survive. So that's essentially like so in a system like that, where companies have no incentive to provide you the best possible service to the market, I would agree with you in that perspective. Crony capitalism absolutely stagnates. It absolutely does. So what you do is you need to take off the training wheels and get rid of some of these regulations and enable people to be as ambitious as they possibly can. Because when you cannot become in a system like that, when it's completely fair and the playing field is even. You can't become wealthy without making someone else wealthy, and that wealth then sort of is distributed simply by matter of your ambition. In a free market system, if I don't provide you something you need or want, I starve. And in that case, it channels people's greed into working for others. And I think that's where a lot of problems, especially with these parties, lie, is that greed is a bad thing, and that greed should be avoided, and it's a disease to be cured. Whereas I would argue the opposite. I would say greed is a positive thing, if given the right circumstances.
Yeah, but the big problem is, right, is obviously it's this marriage, a government and corporations that have led to these supercos who effectively pick the government. Yeah. It's why, for example, it doesn't really matter that whether it was Trump or Clinton, the same policies were going to go through because they're just mouthpieces. Yeah. Now that system has been propagated for about 300 years. That's absolute bullshit. 150 years. Yeah. So if we go right now, we're going to just introduce the free market now. We're going to scrap government because government is pretty much oppressive, and people should be free to run their own affairs. Mm-hmm. You don't address the issue where those corporations still exist. They can only exist because of government. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, they now exist, and they aren't going to go away because we get rid of government. Because they're going to go, fuck it, we've won, we've done it.
Well, if that's the case, why are they not endorsing deregulation? Why do they endorse all these regulations? Surely, if a free market would enable these companies to solidify or fortify their presence in the world and make even more money, why would they not be endorsing all the libertarian parties?
Because right now the current system works absolutely perfectly for them. Now, if they were
that's exactly my argument. That's
exactly. So I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah.
But my point is you're saying that if we're a free market, smaller businesses would be able to compete fairly with bigger businesses. Yeah. What I'm saying is that if they were to now deregulate, or get rid of all these regulations, the big companies that now exist because of those regulations that can afford to continue the standards those regulations set. So, for example, Asda's need health and safety laws. They can now just use health and safety as a benefit. Come work for Asda because we've got the safest working environment.
That's right. And they've given a kickstart because of government. And so the playing field wouldn't be fair if we said free market now.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely agree with you.
So my question is, how do you get to a point where an individual like me or you can say, I completely own my labour? Mm-hmm. And that's where the concept of revolution comes in. We say, well, we've got to get rid of the government, we've got to get rid of the people who propagate government, and we've got to get rid of the corporations and the people who propagate those corporations. If each individual worker owned an equal share in each of the businesses they worked in, every single worker would actually have a vested interest in making sure that business succeeded.
Except the people at the top. That's where it falls down.
Well, there wouldn't be anybody at the top.
But then if there wouldn't be anybody at the top, the company wouldn't exist. There would be no incentive. There would be no market. There would be nobody there to serve that market. Now, when you're saying about the complete deregulation thing, these big corporations, whenever you talk about and deregulating to the point where we have a free market, these companies, the reason why they have invested interest in the current system is because if that happened, they would shit their pants. Because people, individuals, consumers, and the working class that not only work for these companies but also consume the products created by these companies, is that they would be totally empowered by their ability to vote with their wallets. That means that, for companies like Coca-Cola, for example, who do horrendous things in other countries and, outsource labour and all these types of things, would absolutely shit their pants, because some company would be able to come along and do and essentially do the same thing that Coca-Cola has been able to do, but more cheaply and more efficiently and more quickly, providing the most amount of benefit to them and who they work with than Coca-Cola ever had to do. So Coca-Cola's also had to, yes, they rely on the system, and the system has propelled them, but they've also had to work within that system, spending a lot of money, outsourcing, they're going on logistics and all that kind of thing. If you could compete with Coca-Cola for way cheaper, without any slave labour, without any of this logistics having to move things around, you absolutely would, because you would be taking some of their market share, which is a considerable amount of money. And this is the thing about empowering competition with deregulation, is that you encourage people to then, those ambitious people, these people that would otherwise, who want to own 100% of their labour and be as ambitious as they possibly can, until they get to the point where somebody says, no, you're earning too much. Like Jeremy Corbyn said the other week. I mean, this was one of the most retarded things I've ever seen a politician ever say, which was the idea of this proportional wage cap, that you would only be able to earn proportionate to what the lowest paid worker in the company would earn.
Ben and Jerry's do that.
Did he?
Yeah, they did. I don't know if they do it anymore, because I don't think Ben or Jerry work there.
They're both dead.
But yeah,
but this,
they did do that. They were quite famous.
Well, the problem I have with that system, first of all, is that if you're capping somebody's top end earnings, then you're also just defunding your government, because the people who pay the most taxes are the people who earn the most. So if you stop somebody earning lots of money, they funnily enough stop paying lots of tax. So at that perspective, at that time, I was like, I support this policy. Because if you got in government and put this policy in, the government would be bankrupt in about 10 minutes, and we'd all live in our anarchist utopia and peace. But so there's that. And then the second thing is, you said that everybody's contribution towards a company is legitimate. And he's right. He's absolutely right that companies' success is a collective effort. But he made the assumption, and he made the false assumption that it's an equal effort.
Well, I disagree completely, because this whole point is that it's no equal. That the guy on the top is at least 20 times more vital.
Sometimes the guy at the top is worth 20 times more than the burger flipper on the line. I mean, that's it. The burger flipper
and
on the line.
And that's what his policy is. Like, yeah, the guy who go out and founded the company, okay, he's probably worth 20 times more to the company than the people on the bottom. They're only worth 1/20th.
Potentially, but the only way that could actually happen, and profits could actually be funneled that significantly, is when you have a monopoly, and when you can get away with it, and when you don't have a competition breathing down your neck, who's going to offer those workers more money, who's going to redistribute his profits how he sees fit better than his competition, because it's within his best interest to serve the market as best as possible, not within the best interest just to make his own money as much as possible. I remember seeing a really good, a really interesting picture. It was a picture of a whale, and it was the free market whale, and he sat there and he's like, "Oh no, I've eaten all the fish. Now what?" And there's a problem with that. Is that the problem is that whale is a shitty businessman, because that whale has just done himself out of his only market.
I mean,
so
whales don't eat fish. It's a shit comic from the beginning.
It's a very shit comic from the beginning. So, but he just fucked himself. Businesses who have it within their own rational self-interest, and who have it within their own. Who's basically their only onus is to make as much money for them and their shareholders as possible, is not to act like an arse, especially in a free market. Because even just these small, you could do so, because we are in this free market, we also have a free press, and the free press, and this is where that's where you really put the power into the power to the people, is that you have a free press, you have independent press that's able to shatter the reputation of any of these companies that don't serve the market the best, or better, highlight the companies that serve the market better. And that's where the problem comes with these regulations. Is you've got regulations that are intended to try and solve social injustice, but what they end up doing is they end up just creating it, because you're you may be sort of bridging the gap between the top end and the high end, but the bottom end is being left way in the dust. Everything's going down like that. Whereas you want it to come out, you know, like, because people talk about wage inequality and how this is necessarily a bad thing. Well, it's only a bad thing if the labour at the bottom end isn't providing a decent living standard, and if the wages at the top end and the wealth at the top end is being created, then everybody's living standard increases, and that's not trickle down economics. Before anybody says
It's not trickle down economics. It's schmickle down.
economics.
We're sort of circling the regulation thing because I am not a fan of government regulations.
I know you're not. Which makes it really kind of funny from the perspective of temporarily supporting sort of big government things in order to, it's like a means to an end kind of thing.
I mean,
is that essentially what it is? I mean,
not
what's the
quite,
problem with just saying let's just dismantle the state right now?
because if you dismantle the state right now, you're still left with the state's sister, megacorps, who just continue the.
Who, without the state, would have to either serve the market or die. Isn't that a good thing?
But they wouldn't have to because they already own the market.
But they don't. But the market isn't something that is bought and sold. The market is something that buys and sells. So if you want the market to do something that you want, you have to provide it something that it needs or wants. And if somebody could come along and provide that thing better and slightly, maybe even cheaper, or in a more efficient way, then that's the way you do it. Like. People always talk about libertarians and anarchists and all these kind of things. They want to privatise the NHS. It's like, no, I don't want to privatise the NHS because the NHS is a bad business. Why would you fund and why would any private investor buy the NHS when it's such a catastrophic failure? What I would do is I would deregulate the market and allow doctors, healthcare professionals, and people who want to open and build hospitals to do so. And allow doctors to go off and serve the market however he wants. Now, somebody who fears this kind of deregulation would go, that doctor could basically be a cowboy and go off and charge whatever he wants. I'm like, all right, say I was to do that in Holland, in the Dutch model, where they have mostly a private system, and the government provides some kind of state welfare to put the money in the hand of the patient, and the patient then chooses what service it uses, which is a much better way of doing it. Now, if I wanted to go off and be a doctor in Holland, which a lot of our doctors in this country are doing to get away from the NHS contracts, is they'll go into Holland and I'll open up my own surgery. Could I just start charging whatever I wanted?
Well, you have to compete with the prices that are available.
Well, that's exactly
But
it.
we're talking about two different kinds of markets.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, fair enough, right? Because
They have
the
a free
NHS
one and we don't.
Yeah, well, no, what I
Yeah.
mean is, right, so the NHS is completely state-owned.
Yeah.
There's a few alternate procedures. You can go
There's
through it, but at the
a
end of the day,
couple
they
of
still
bits and
use
pieces
NHS
for
hospitals.
privatised, yeah.
But, most medical procedures are done through government aid, through
That's
the
right.
NHS.
Yeah.
So if you say, right, fuck that, we're getting rid of that, and what we're going to do is we're just going to let people run hospitals if they want.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because that is a completely new market.
Yeah.
And it's completely free. If you say, right, fuck it, we're going to deregulate supermarkets, anybody can open a supermarket and just
Yeah.
run it how they like. Asda goes, well, we've already obtained the means through abusing regulations to just be the best supermarket, so no one could possibly, compete with us if we just got rid of the regulations on Asda today.
So, but again, you could compete with us though. You could offer jobs at slightly higher prices. You can offer products at slightly lower prices because
Could you?
Yeah, of course you could, because the market would be free. You would be able to get your products from the same place that Asda can, and they would have their own, within their own best interest, to sell you those products. Hell, you could go to individual companies and involve a more agorist kind of point of view to it, and go to all the local places. There are hundreds of advantages of having a local shop, comparatively speaking, to Asda. We already have people that compete with Asda, even within this heavily regulated market. They're called corner shops, and they're owned by immigrants. And these already compete so much with Asda, to the point where now we have 24-hour Asda, we have 24-hour Tesco, we have Tesco Quick, and all that kind of stuff. Those all actually came from these corner shops who used to be able to stay open as long as they wanted before these big supermarkets who closed at 6:30 or 8 o'clock. Well, these corner shops came in, were open till 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and then they could start selling their products after that time. And then all of a sudden we get these 24-hour supermarkets, and then we get a ban on selling alcohol after 10 p.m. and things like other regulations which are completely shitting on these smaller businesses. So again, it keeps boiling down to the, yes, you're absolutely right that ASDA has managed to propel itself to the top with regulations, which is why we need to kick the stilts from under them, because they would then at that point have to maintain their success by doing so. And within a free market, they're going to have competition. They're not only going to have competition for the market, they're going to have competition for their supply. They're going to have competition for, we want to build another ASDA here, and then you've got a community of people saying, no, you can't build your ASDA here because this is our community and we get to decide what's built and what's not built, and so on and so forth. You don't have governments coming in and saying, yeah, if you build a store here, we'll give you a 3% corporation tax cut and all this kind of thing, which is what's essentially doing it. I think if it was to deregulate, Amazon would fuck off. See, if you take away that 3% corporation tax cut that they're getting from the Scottish government, they would off the fuck. And quite frankly, good riddance, because I'm sick of them dominating the fucking job market. Yes, they provide a living wage, but what have they got? They've got people standing up for like 9-10 hours a day, random drug tests. They're basically it's slavery with extra steps, right? And that's fucking what it is. And this is and it's governments that enable these companies to do that. So when you point at a corporation and say, look at capitalism and how exploitative it is, that's not capitalism. We don't live in a capitalist society. We live in a bit of a capitalist society, and that bit of capitalism we have is so valuable because that's the only thing left actually creating the wealth.
Well, a really good example of when companies that have propagated through regulation and then abused that once they were deregulated is what happened with Stagecoach. If you notice, Stagecoach has got a monopoly at the moment.
Yeah.
And they had a monopoly in the 70s.
Yeah.
And what happened was Fife Council went, right, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the market to any bus company. And we used to loan the routes and we will sell the routes to whatever company provides the best service.
Yeah.
So a couple of companies popped up and said, we'll do this route, we'll do that. And
So
usually
Moffat and Williamson, I remember them. Yeah, they used to take me to school.
What happened was Stagecoach, because they were already doing really fucking well, started offering just free buses on routes that weren't that profitable.
That's good though, Ron.
Yeah, but you know what happened?
Free buses is good.
Free buses is great, but you know what happened? The companies that couldn't afford to do free buses disappeared. Stagecoach is now the only bus company.
Yeah, but it's also still very difficult. Like if you were to go and go and just buy a bus and then start picking people up and dropping people off, go and try it. You get arrested. You don't have a bus license. You don't have all the health and safety regulations to operate that bus necessarily. The bus needs to be MOT'd and vetted and make sure that it's all kosher. You need to tax the fucking thing. Yeah, then you need to open up a company, and then you need to register that company with the government, and then I could keep going.
Yeah.
But my point is clear. There's so many regulations. If I just pick someone up from their house, like I did today, I provided you a free taxi service. If I was to charge you a penny for that, I'd go to jail. It's basically, if you can pick somebody up in a bus and drop them off at another location, you're a bus service. But you can't do that. So Stagecoach, yeah, absolutely still own a monopoly. But you know what happened out of that deregulatory process? People got free buses, and old people get to ride these buses for free and things like that, which is a good thing.
Yeah, but do you know what happened? Is that those free buses aren't there anymore because they didn't fucking need them. Because as soon as those other companies were driven off the road,
they stopped doing it.
Yeah, Fife went, right, fuck it, we might as well just one company doing the buses,
which is,
and then we've got a monopoly.
Yeah, and now we've got a monopoly again. So, well, that's it. I mean, all of these problems can still, kind of boil down to the government stepping in and doing this half-assed. Half in, half out approach.
Yeah, but as soon as they tried to step away, because a corporation was propagated under it, they were able just to continue.
Yeah, no,
And
but,
nobody's able to
again,
cut
you're not pointing at it. It's not a free market. It isn't a free market.
But they freed the market, then, right, fuck it, anybody
But it's
can do
not
the bus
free.
route.
It's not free but it's not, because you still need a license to get a bus. You still need to MOT the thing. You need to tax it. You need
But even
insurance.
if
You
you
need
go
all
right-
these. You need all of these government mandated things. They've taken your right to start a bus company and they've sold it back to you, and you've
But
bought
once
it.
they go regulations, once they right, the big regulation, the big thing that's stopping buses is that
You
we
need to
decide-
get rid of them all. This is what I mean. It's not a half-assed, one foot in, one foot out
Right,
approach.
they get rid of
You
them
have
all.
to dismantle the entire fucking system.
They get rid of all of them.
Yeah.
A bunch of people are like, let's set up wee bus companies. We'll do
Yeah.
wee mini buses and less popular
Let's
routes.
do it, Ron. Me and you.
Yeah.
Ron and Caz's bus service. We'll fucking drop folk up to this podcast and back. we could do it.
Support that. I support
I mean,
that.
See?
I can't
There's a market.
I can't drive and I'm blind, so that may be a bad fucking idea.
But you're really charismatic and you get on well with the customers, mate. We can make this work.
But the point is, you know what would happen when we tried it?
What?
We would charge, like, say, a reasonable price. £3 to get here, right?
Aye, okay.
We could accommodate here, that's reasonable. That covers the buses. That covers making sure the bus works. You know what Stagecoach will do? They'll go, oh wait, we're billionaires, let's do a free bus!
Let's do a free bus. And then people get free buses, Ron. That's good. If
Free
we,
buses
if
until we give up.
Yeah, free buses until we give up, or we can keep going and we can say we're going to provide a service that these big faceless corporations can't. We're going to give you a rose if you step onto our bus. You can come up with it. This is where the facilitation of the human mind becomes the best thing in the world, because then what you do is you force them. You force people to become innovative. You force them to become imaginative and then get to the
Yeah,
situation.
but you know what you're
and if
doing
they
when
don't,
when you give customers like a rose to get on your £3 bus. You're just buying a rose for £3.
Yeah, I
and
know.
you get a free bus for Stagecoach.
yeah, well, exactly.
And
So you
eventually
have
the
to.
little guy
So
has to give up.
so eventually, what you're doing is you become a glorified rose salesman,
delivery.
right? Basically, and there will be people. If there's a market, if there's a market, there's a way to do it.
So that's
If they
fine. We
provide their
become
free
rose
service,
salesmen.
but again, it's not just us that's going to be existing in this world. We could charge £3 as a reasonable price. That's a number you just kind of picked off the top of your
Yeah,
head.
made up number.
But we would have to compete with the already existing bus services, the bus services that the Besides the Norm bus service starts up, and they're going to compete with Caz and Ron's bus
Good luck
service.
with
So they're going to start up and they're going to charge £2.80, and then somebody else is going to start there up and they're going to get an even cheaper bus. They're going to manage to get a bus, and they're going to fuel their bus. Hell, they invent their they invent their engine.
Their air engine.
They've got their air engine, and they go, "We've finally done it. We've now finally gained the initiative and the incentive to invent something that is going to solve problems." And in the meantime, we had the big evil corporation that's making all the money and is monopolising things and making things miserable for the market, providing free buses for people. That's good. That's what you want. You want them to fork out for the market and get on their knees and start, filleting the customer. That's what it's about.
They only provide the free bus until the other companies become rose salesmen, and then they start charging.
So
again.
don't become rose salesmen. Provide a better service than the corporation, which you can do without having to
provide
jump
a
through
better
all.
service.
Of course, I can
But
provide a
when
better service.
you absolutely could,
You're
but-
thinking about just me and you. It's not just going to be Stagecoach. Think of a Donald Trump in America that's got millions and billions of dollars. He's going to come over here and say, "What, these Stagecoach guys are handing out like free buses and stuff, and they're these manky old things that piss out loads of fucking diesel and all this kind of shit, and aren't as safe as the buses that I've got." And he buys a shitload of buses and then comes down here and then opens up his own private bus service and then basically dominates, and he serves the market way better than Stagecoach ever did, because that's what you're doing. You're not just incentivizing the little person and the small businessman to come up and try and compete with the company. You're also encouraging outside businesses, not just from the outside, but and domestic people who have got lots of money and ambition and want to spend it and want to risk it on trying to turn that into more money, because if that's a market there, if Stagecoach if Stagecoach have the market, and the market is completely free and anybody can come in and start their own companies, people 10 times richer than Stagecoach ever were will come in and completely dominate the sector. And that's what you want, because these ones are the ones that are going to serve the market the best. And if they don't serve the market the best, they don't pay their shareholders. And if they don't pay the shareholders, they don't get the investment in the first place to compete with Stagecoach. And it's the great circle of life.
Which sounds great, but
Yeah.
it doesn't address the idea that these companies who have been able to grow unfathomably large
Yeah.
can afford to operate on a loss.
Yes, they can,
Like
and we
if-
want to force them to do that if we deregulate the market. Because if
You
they're
still
having,
then end up with monopolies.
but not if they, but if not for long, if they operate under a loss. How much of a monopoly can you command if you're not making any money? Somebody who comes in and then has a better idea, and that better idea makes more money than Stagecoach, then they're going to last longer than Stagecoach are.
So let me just ask then: Excuse me, let me start that sentence again because I fucked that right
Don't
up.
worry, it's back on. Take your time, don't hurt yourself.
Are you saying that what you would rather happen is, and if this is the case, and I'm 100% on board,
Right.
is that you want huge companies like Stagecoach to essentially drive themselves out of business to allow individuals to run smaller local businesses that provide better, more personal services?
Correct.
Then I agree. Fuck it, let's let Stagecoach drive themselves out of business.
Yeah, pretty
Fuck
much. But this is, but from what my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that this process, that this process wouldn't happen naturally. You would need a revolution for this to happen. You
I mean,
would
that
need
sounds like a revolution already.
Well, if that's a revolution, I'm on board, because the revolution from a socialist perspective that I'm constantly hearing about, from all sides of the socialist spectrum, because there is a socialist spectrum,
Totally.
is that you would need to, is that the worker owns the means of production, which means that they're going to have to at some point seize it from those who currently own it, which is theft.
I mean, seize means a variety of things. We spoke about this the other day, and I was like, buy it from you. I'll buy it.
What if I refuse to sell?
Well, you're not immortal. You'll die eventually.
Well, that's
I'll
true.
buy it
What
from whoever you give it to.
Yeah, well, okay. That's absolutely.
And maybe your ancestors will hold on to, your descendants will hold on for 1,000 years.
So what?
But eventually, one of the fuckers will sell it.
Right. Well, in that case, it doesn't contradict my principle from that perspective. But what does contradict my principle is this mainstream idea of socialism, which, when you boil it down to the morality of it, is where capitalism is consensual sex and socialism is rape. So essentially that's what it boils down to. You either build a system on voluntarism and something that you're going to do voluntarily and with somebody's consent, or you tax somebody to fuck, and then you use that to fund your little pet project and waste everybody's money, as they did not too long ago, with Trident and all these other things. It's like I would really love it for one of these politicians to actually, I would really love to believe these politicians when they tell me they're not greedy. I really would. But nobody isn't greedy. If somebody isn't working within their own self-interests and not working, to these types of, and not doing that, then they're either fooling themselves or everybody else.
Totally. And I'm going to totally misquote Richard Nixon for Futurama. Futurama very specifically. It's like, people have never been more free than ever. They're free to participate in socialism, or they're free to spend a month in the gulag.
Yeah.
No, but so you're absolutely right. Because I reckon that the corporate side of things can be done by simply letting them cut their own nose off. Like, yeah, you can run free buses until you can't afford it, and then we'll all just operate better bus companies.
That's it.
We will, when you are bankrupt, we will buy your buses from you for fucking pennies.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
We will run them cooperatively, because cooperations are better. The government side, I think, has to be a violent upheaval. I saw a brilliant placard. I'm not sure what.
A well spelled one this time.
No, it was shit. It was written by some fucking peasant. No, so it basically said that you cannot use pacifism to beat an enemy who is free to use violence. And it happened in Australia in the 1970s. The people voted for basically Corbyn. They voted for Corbyn. He wasn't a socialist. He claimed to be a socialist, and he was as close to socialism as you could get in the current sort of plutocracy that exists. Yep. And then the Queen went, no, and they overthrew him immediately. Like, no, you're not fucking doing that. No, I want my golden hat.
Yeah.
Government has to be overthrown violently. There's no two ways about that. Corporations can be basically beaten by ignoring them until they go away. Pretty
much. I mean, that there is what you're describing is essentially agorism. Like, agorism is something that I subscribe to as well. It's counter to capitalism, but not really, because we're still talking about the idea of 100% self-ownership and owning all of your labour, right? But if you want to own all of your labour and the fruits of those labour, and you want to spend it, for example, in the local supermarket, instead of the local supermarket, you go down to the local butcher and buy your meat from there instead of the supermarket. That's counter economics. If you want to buy your weed on Silk Road instead of from your local dealer, that's agorism. You're supporting systems that you prefer.
Yeah,
and
totally.
given that
ethical consumption.
opportunity to do so. I think people would like. We were talking about earlier on, just very briefly about nuclear versus alternative. I would let the market decide. A, because I'm lazy. B, because I'm not smart enough to figure this shit out. And so the market, like people who don't agree with nuclear energy, will not buy nuclear energy. They will pay extra
For hydro
or wind farms or something like that, and they'll campaign for it. Somebody said to me once, like, if we're living in a stateless society, like who would hold me to task if I did something wrong? What if I broke the nap? I was like what? He says, well, what if I was to eradicate a species from my land or something like that? And I was like, well, were they a threat to you? And he was like, yeah, let's say they're threatening my livestock or something like that. I was like, well, you're free to do it on your land, whatever you want, but an animal rights group will damn well try through voluntary donations to take you down. And that's what they'll do. They use the court systems, the private court systems, to try and take you down and try and stop you from doing this in some way. And try and argue a case that what you're doing isn't just protecting your land, in which case then they have a leg to stand on. So I think what you're saying is totally right. I think you've accepted more than a lot more socialists that we're not ants. Like, we don't all think and act the same. We're not equal,
completely.
and that we are cooperative and competitive creatures. And those two things need to be kind of embraced, in a balanced way.
We spoke about that on Facebook. I think my dad was involved in that competition. I was saying competition's not bad. It's when competition exploits people that it becomes an issue.
Exactly.
Like, there is absolutely no. Like,
we just disagree where the exploitation comes from.
So if you had two workers' cooperatives, right? Who one was Microsoft, one was Sony, and they both released PlayStation and the Xbox. Yeah. There is absolutely nothing wrong with them working against each other to create the better machine.
Sure.
And I suppose a lot of people find that agreeable because we're talking about a luxury rather than a necessity. Mm-hmm. But as long as far as I'm concerned, as long as both those companies are workers' cooperatives, then I have no problem with the two of them existing trying to make the better service.
So when you say workers' cooperative, it's essentially like the co-op?
Kinda, but even more so. Well, I mean, kinda, because the co-op...
because the co-op does have executives and they're paid
totally,
exorbitant salaries and
you need
things
people
like
who
that.
are qualified and interested to run businesses.
And they're willing to take the risks with their money. That's the one thing that I think is ignored. Is like, oh, that's terrible how the McDonald's burger flippers only get £6 an hour while there's somebody getting like 500 million a year or whatever. It's like, yeah, but the guy... the burger flipper didn't, like 20 years ago or 100 years ago or whatever, take, massive risks and say, I'm going to take my life's earnings and I'm going to put them into a shed. And then I'm going to try and serve the market from my shed. And then, 20, 30, 40 years later it becomes Amazon, right? That person and that person's legacy deserves to be rewarded for that risk. Whereas somebody just standing in Amazon doing customer returns for 9 hours a day probably just deserves his wage.
Totally. I get that, I understand that. And my gripe is when I speak about proletariat and bourgeoisie, the bourgeoisie aren't people with more skills than me. Because the fact is, I'm a fucking dipshit.
Bourgeoisie are the people with more money but same skill level. Is that the idea?
The bourgeoisie are people who make money simply by owning things, rather than actually selling a skill or a labour.
But isn't so you're maybe talking about somebody like a financial investor. Like someone in Wall Street, for example, or one of Thatcher's children, a financial executive.
It depends, because maybe not even like they might be at the very, very top of the proletariat, right? And there is almost a certain an inequality thing.
But there's also as well there's a certain amount of skill in taking it, because a lot of the financial sector is gambling, and you wouldn't say that a poker player, a master poker player, doesn't have any skill.
Yeah, totally. And I'm not saying that people who buy and sell stocks are necessarily.
Sure, yeah.
I just think stocks shouldn't exist. Right. But like, just work on the framework. Of what
companies wouldn't exist.
Stocks would exist, but they'd be owned by the people who work in the companies.
Yeah, and the company would make no money because nobody knows how to do anything.
Of course, they would employ someone who does know.
Jesus
Aye.
Christ.
You need to give them money, though, mate.
Yeah, of course you would. Right, a couple things, because I think what I need to do is lay out my fucking roadmap for the revolution, but also I think companies would work.
Right.
Because you're absolutely right that people who take a bigger risk or have better skills deserve immediate.
Yeah, the surgeon has a bigger stake in the hospital than the janitor does.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So they would have equal stakes, but what would work? What if I had my way? If I was Uncle Joe?
Uncle Joe.
Yeah. How it would work would be that you would rank the employees based on how necessary their skill actually is. People on the top.
Yeah. Is that based on what they produce?
What they produce, essentially, yeah.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, I'm trying to get a really an accurate example for this. So let's go with supermarkets, right?
Right.
The guy who stacks the shelves, okay? Anybody can stack a shelf. Now the fact is, if all the people who stack the shelves, well, we're not coming to work today, right, we're just not going to come again, the business would not function. You need people to stack shelves. They are a vital part of that operation.
Mm-hmm.
And you're better to, every company agrees that it is better to keep the same people for a long time than constantly churn over. Let me fucking finish, dick.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
let's carry on. However, it is absolutely true that the people who actually run that shop and make sure that, we know how many packs of crisps we're going to sell, so we'll make sure we've got that amount of crisps.
And how much the shelf stackers are paid.
Yeah, and all that stuff. The people who actually know how to run a co-op, run a shop, run a supermarket, have a higher skill.
Aye.
So how I would do it is the people who are more skilled would get paid more immediately. So they would be on £12 an hour. The people starting the shelves would be on £8 an hour, whatever. Just random numbers.
Yeah.
But what would happen is at the end of the year, okay, the end of the year profits would be divided up equally.
Right.
So the people who are, who spend longer at university to learn how to do harder jobs, they get a better quality of life for their effort because they've went and they've
So is
developed
this
better skills.
is this profit? Is this net profit after wages after all that's actually been thing? Right. I mean, well, that sounds like a really interesting business model.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really
that's-
good. Would you force companies to work that way?
No.
Right.
I wouldn't force anybody to do it.
Then we don't have a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. Then I think this is where we might want to section onto our fucking ANCOM ANCAP alliance.
Yeah.
That
So what I'll
we've been
do, we
working
can do
on.
that, but what I'll put is I'll basically line out my ideas because I think I jump between what I want to happen in the future and what I think needs to happen now.
Yeah.
And that's where things get mixed up. Mm-hmm. That's why I'll say something like, the death penalty is wrong, but definitely shoot the bourgeoisie. So the idea for me would be that you have a vanguard party who have an active interest in politics and running armies. Mm-hmm. Okay? They, with the consent of the working class, would overthrow the state.
Right.
Now, the necessity of that, the uncomfortable, this is what I call it the dreaded revolution, because I don't like the idea of shooting people. I fucking hate it. I'd like to say I'm a pacifist. I don't want to hurt anybody. Mm-hmm. But I also accept that the government isn't going to let go of power unless we fucking shoot them.
Right.
So you overthrow the government. Now, if you just overthrow the government and go, right, we'll just go home now, you just create chaos.
Yeah.
So you need, for a very short time, a socialist government to, take the place of the government that currently exists and start putting in place socialist policies. But here's the most important part of what that government needs to do from day one, is put in the mechanisms for that government to be destroyed. It needs to be...
That couldn't be overflowed by a following government or anything like that.
Yeah, it has to be... You can have a situation where, I speak about this in my book when I'm speaking about Cuba, is that some would argue that if the government owns the means of production and the people own the government, then the people own the means of production. But that doesn't work because really the Castro family owns the government.
Yeah.
And eventually...
I agree with you there.
Yeah, that is going to stagnate and that is going to crumble.
Yeah.
And everything that Cuba's achieved is going to be for naught. But I'm getting sidetracked. The idea would be is that over time, this new government would let go of the responsibility and the power to workers' cooperatives.
Right.
And leave people who are skilled and interested to run the services that we currently associate with government. And that state would wither and die. And we would no longer need things like borders, and we would no longer need things like restrictions, because people would be free to get services for people who are interested in providing those services. And what would happen then is that we would eventually go, what are these tokens? Why do these matter? Why can't I just... we've got the technology where for the same effort I can make 1 million steaks or 10 steaks for me and my family. So I'll just make 1 million steaks and give you some if you give me, some of the eggs that you can make. Because you
Totally.
can make 1 million eggs. For
Well,
the same effort.
what you're describing is free market capitalism. You're
describing
describing.
communism.
You're talking about the free exchange of a voluntary exchange of goods and or services without any interference from the state.
Yeah.
It's essentially
Communism.
about self-ownership. Communism isn't self-ownership. Communism is about ownership, collective ownership, treating basically the indigenous, the entire population as kind of one entity, that from each according to his ability to each according to his need. But the problem is we all have different abilities and different needs, and
Exactly.
and who decides who those needs and who those abilities are.
Nobody decides.
The market decides.
Yeah, exactly, and that's fine.
And that's a free market capitalism.
You're a communist.
I'm not a communist. You're a capitalist. So this is what happens when two proto-libertarians have a fucking have a conversation about the problem. Your path to utopia there sounded lovely, and I actually didn't really disagree with much of it. The problem I have with it is what you end up having is when you get a government so powerful that it owns the means of production, it owns everything, even it still owns the mechanism for which it should be dismantled by, but then what happens is you get some other politician coming along, a part of that government, some other part of that government that says, oh no, there's now a terrorist invasion, we need emergency powers, there's now another crisis that's happened, Pompeii Mark II's happened in Newcastle, right? You know, something bad invariably happens, some country invades us, something happens, and then the government goes, shit, we don't have enough money to deal with this problem.
And that is...
Right? We don't have enough anything to deal with this problem. Now, the government ends up being in this limbo where it's too inept to actually solve any problems because the population has been stripped of so much of its self-ownership and self-responsibility that it can't do anything either.
So that's
what
I'm
the issue.
proposing is that we never strip the people of that agency. That's why you shared that.
But that's what socialism needs to do. It needs to strip people of the agency.
Completely. I think that's
one of your party policies is to nationalise the railways. You're essentially either talking about buying it from people, you know, against their will, or just taking it from them, and then trying to run it. You're talking about taking a vital service, and then taking it off the hands of businessmen that have it within their best interest to serve the market as best they can.
Well, it should be great if they were doing that, but they haven't been.
But they haven't been because the government owns the railways and the government owns all the regulations.
The whole
I can't
railway
open up
system
as
is completely broken. So here's what you do: you say, right now we do not have an effective railway system because we have fucked this up. We have, for some reason, privatised the cars but allowed the rails to be state-owned. That doesn't fucking work.
No, it doesn't. That's the one that's half in, half out approaches I was talking about earlier on. Same with the NHS.
Here's what we're going to do: is we're going to buy the railway from you. Okay, we're going to buy your companies. If you don't want to sell them, that's fine. But we're not going to let you go on the rails.
What are you buying? What are you buying it with?
The imaginary tokens.
Yeah, I know, but where are you getting the imaginary tokens from?
Taxation, man.
Exactly, and taxation is theft, Ron.
Yeah, but you have to phase it away.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
That's what I'm talking about. That's vanguard government.
But the way I would do it is I would deregulate the rail industry entirely. Like completely and utterly entirely. I would sell anything state owned in that department to maybe even the highest bidder. In fact, maybe not even the highest bidder, because that was the problem that we had with the railways in the first place. Excuse me, I need a cough. That was the problem we had with the railways in the first place. Is we sold to the highest bidder. The highest bidder paid too much for the railways, and now they're having to recoup the losses. They're having to recoup the profits in some way, so they're having to increase ticket prices. I mean, that's essentially what happened. So you wouldn't sell it to the highest bidder. You would sell it to whoever is going to. You would sell it to those who wanted to buy it at an amicable, reasonable price that the market dictated. You would try and open up that auction house. Sorry, I just hit the mic. I open up that marketplace, that auction house, to pretty much as many people as possible. So it's not necessarily to the highest bidder, but the best possible.
My problem is that
the person who wants it.
You can have a free market for transport. Okay?
Yeah.
So you can say, right, okay, the train is faster, but the bus is significantly cheaper, so I'm going to use the bus route. Mm-hmm. But you don't, I can't really conceive a way that trains could really be free, because, like, for example, I usually go down to my granddad's in England, and I get East Coast Rail. Right? And I get on the train and it says, thank you for choosing East Coast. I didn't fucking choose it.
It's the only one.
The train going where I'm going. Yeah. There is only one railway.
Yeah.
Now, I could have got the bus. That would have been exercising the free market. Mm-hmm. But the train was faster and more comfortable. But I didn't choose East Coast.
No.
I chose the one and only train going to my granddad's house.
Well, in a free market, you would have multiple train companies using the same railway, so you could choose whatever one you wanted.
I would just get the one that was first.
Well, you'd get the one that would. If you get the one that was first, then you're still making a choice.
Am I though?
Yeah.
Like if I need to be there for 5 o'clock,
Well, if the train that arrived first got there 40 minutes after the train that was going to come in 15 minutes, would you take it?
how the fuck could it possibly do that on a railway, Caz?
Because the railways that would be owned by someone, they would be able to change them, you'd be able to build more railways, you'd be able to, they'd be owned by people. They would actually progress rather than stagnate under state ownership.
Yeah, but it's not a magic rail, it's a fucking rail, you can't
Yeah, I
even
know.
faster on it.
But, yes, but you can.
just
There
crash.
are no. Yeah, I know. But it's not just one single track all the way from the top to the bottom, Ron.
Fucking
It's a
is.
network of different fucking railways. You ever seen that turntable on Thomas the Tank Engine when they all come out of their wee hole? Is it they're all coming off of different rails? Somebody's got to build them. Somebody's got to invest in them, and we've got to see a return. And it's like, oh, it's really worth building a railway there because a whole bunch of guys from Caraway is going to fucking travel there to their job in Amazon because they dominate the job market.
Do you know who should build them though? Workers' fucking cooperatives.
Well, workers' cooperatives can absolutely. Well, you need work. Those are things that absolutely work. But what I'm trying to propose and what I'm presenting as well, that the alternative also works. The top-down system where you have the hierarchy, which isn't kind of a hierarchy at all, because you mentioned it earlier on. Companies are beholden to their bottom end, so they have it within their best interest to look after the bottom end. They don't just pay them wages, they give them holidays, they give them all these types of things, and they gave them all well before government started saying
completely,
that you
but
should.
You know why they gave them? They didn't do it because, we feel sorry for the workers.
No,
They
of course
the
not.
The workers said, we demand fucking holidays.
No,
over
they
it
don't.
again.
Yeah, well, or we're going to offer you this because happy workers are more productive workers, and they produce more, and they earn my company more money. So you have it within your own interest to look after your staff. Like, if you don't look after your staff, especially when you're in a freer market and you can go and get another job and you can sell your labour to whoever you want to, you are, the ball is in your court as the contractee rather than the contractor, and you have it within your power to agree or disagree with that contract if you want, and the competition knows this, and they'll play to that, and they'll try and treat you as well as possible. This is why I'm thinking that the revolution where the workers are going to basically go up to all their bosses and go is not going to happen, because their bosses are really fucking nice to them, generally speaking. If they're not a company that's propped up by government and are able to get away with basically murder, and their salaries don't depend on them doing a good job. You'll find a company where their salary depends on them doing a good job, and you will find that the workers absolutely do really like their bosses. Who was it that got a car that all the workers chipped together and bought the CEO of the company that makes hundreds of thousands more than they do? I think it was Elon Musk, Tesla. I think all the workers in the building, in the office, got together and bought him a car. It was like a fucking supercar, £200,000 supercar, just to say thanks, just for being such a fucking Sunday. And that's the kind of stuff. Aye,
love that word.
and it's not just because they got paid lots of money, but it's because they've got great working conditions. It's because he's a nice guy. It's because he knows that if he treats his staff well, then they're going to treat him well. And that's about the cooperative.
Which is absolutely true, but the big point is the reason companies have started working that out, the reason that the companies are going, oh yeah, if we're nice to people, they'll work harder, is because 70 years ago, you didn't have weekends, you had half day off on a Saturday.
That's right.
And then people went, actually, if you don't let us off on fucking Sunday, we're not coming in at all, so fuck off.
Yeah.
And it was that process, the workers standing up and saying, fuck you, be nice.
But you're always going to have this conglomerate of workers. Like, look at the situation we were in before Thatcher came in, where the unions basically ran a dictatorship over the country. It wasn't just a case of we're not coming in. It's that we're not coming in, and anybody who does come in, we're going to pan their car windows in. We're going to start throwing bricks at them if they go to their work. And this is in a situation where people were burning their furniture just to heat their homes. And this was because workers' conglomerates, workers' unions, had basically had so much power from the state, and the state had a monopoly on the service, is that they were able to do that. So this is another problem that you end up with a state-owned train service, is you're going to have a weekly packed train, because you're going to have strikes all the time. I mean, look at the state-owned National Health Service. You've got Jeremy Hunt passing all these contracts, and all these junior doctors and all these nurses are having to go, yep, I can either accept that or I can fucking leave the country. So they're striking, and then productivity goes down, and then things go wrong. I mean, I had a brilliant analogy, and I'm probably going to butcher it because I'm not actually kind of reading it in the article that I read it in, but it was fantastic. And this is when you're talking about kind of averaging these things out between the worker and the top end, and and this kind of thing, is when You take a classroom analogy. If the teacher suddenly decides that he wants to increase the average grade that his class gets as a result of he's been told that he needs to increase his standards. So what he does is he gets a test and puts out a test, and then some people in this test, some people get A's, some people get B's, some get C's, and some fail. And then what he does is he says, right, now we're no longer going to actually grade individually based on merit, we're going to grade on average. So then what happens is the next test comes along and pretty much everyone gets a B. The guys that get A's last time are pissed off because they have just worked their balls off to try and do as much as they possibly can, and they've got a less grade than what they deserve. The people that aren't doing as well as the A's and the D's and the failures are delighted. They're absolutely smitten because they've managed to achieve something that they might not necessarily deserve. So when the next test comes along, the people at the bottom end have no incentive to do a better job. They've got no incentive to do any better because they know they're going to get a B anyway. And the same goes for the A's. The A's go, well, I'm going to work my balls off and I'm going to end up with a B anyway, so I might as well just do B-level work. So everybody goes in with this attitude, and then the next test that comes in gets an average of a D, and you've just made everybody more stupid, or made everybody appear to be more stupid. And so change the teacher for a politician who wants to increase some kind of wealth standards and change grades for wealth. And this is the way that socialism is being thrust upon us in today, is that we need to shave off the ambitions of the top to prop up the diseased bottom people that can't live without us. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that people have, especially on my side of the fence when it comes to socialism, is it's curtailing ambition and then handing it to not people who don't deserve it, but people who are not going to benefit from any kind of handout. They're going to benefit from being provided the pathways to become self-sufficient, and then try and attain that ambition. And this is why I actually do quite like Thatcher from that perspective, is that she emancipated the plumber. She might have done a lot of guys out of state-owned jobs, but she also emancipated the working class guy who didn't like his plumbing firm and could leave, buy his own van with some of the wages that he earned, and start serving the market by himself. And I saw an interview, it was on a documentary, granted it was a Channel 4 documentary, but it was an interview, and they talked to that very plumber, and he's in his 50s or 60s now, and he's now got 10 or 11 or 12 different vans. He's got a turnover of 1.4 million a year. He's doing an absolutely brilliant job, and he's a very wealthy man because he took the risks of taking his wages and buying a van and going and doing that. And
so in other words, when he owned the means of his own production, life got significantly better for him.
Exactly.
Imagine if everybody owned the means of their own production, Caz.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's capitalism. When
Well,
people
that's socialism.
No, socialism is when somebody else is entitled to your labour.
No, of course it fucking is.
Of course it is. Well, why are people taxing my labour and calling it socialism then?
Because people like the buzzword socialism, but if you're not, it's like if I say to you, Caz, I'm David Beckham, you're not going to go, fucking hell, you can do keepy uppies.
No,
you
but
fucking can.
No, but if you could do keepy uppies as good as David Beckham does, then it would be pretty good. It would be, and I saw you from a distance. It would be pretty easy to distinguish you from, not pretty easy to confuse you for David Beckham. And this is what I'm trying to say: is that capitalism at its essence is that somebody owns the 100% of their means of production. That also means if they want to, they can sacrifice some of that labor. For example, I'm going to spend 16 hours a day peeling shallots so I can become a chef one day, and things like that, and be able to do that without without anybody else telling them that they can. And or anybody else taking any of their labour from them from some kind of entitlement, because the very term "from each according to his ability to each according to his need" is essentially slavery with extra steps. You're essentially what you're talking about is the farmer if a farmer has a yield of 3 tons of potatoes, that he's got to feed everyone in the village before he feeds his family. So if that's the case, and all he's getting is exactly what he needs to feed his family, he doesn't have an incentive to then do 2 tons of potatoes. He'll just make what he needs for his family in that case, and not have to spend 16 hours a day on the field. He'll spend 2 hours a day on the field, feed his family, and then nobody in the village gets fed and everybody starves. Welcome to socialism. That's the image I've got.
The whole point, to each, from each. wasn't a government mandate. It was about
No.
a societal behaviour.
Right.
And it's like we were speaking earlier, if you've got a machine that can harvest 1 million potatoes with the same amount of effort that it takes to harvest 10 potatoes, so you can, for the same amount of effort, you can get all the potatoes you need for your family, or all the potatoes you need for your community.
For your community.
You'd be able to say, here's some fucking potatoes.
No, I absolutely agree with you. But the thing is,
That's what from
if you
each-
want to get to that machine in the first place, you need to take off the training wheels of human ambition, which is because people say to me all the time, government has created so many things. I was like, government hasn't created anything. Government has literally done nothing. What has done things is human minds. Like you made the argument the other day. It was months and months ago. I think it was a Friedman quote, a Milton Friedman quote that you were debating about when he said that nothing ever good has ever come of government. And you said, well, what about the Vatican City? They made the Sistine Chapel. And my argument was, no, they didn't make the Sistine Chapel. It came from Michelangelo's head.
I remember that conversation.
Yeah. And that's essentially it. I mean, nothing is more, beneficial to mankind than the human mind. So that you want
The
to
point
try and
I was trying
take
to
as
make
many.
with that was that humans, when they are freed for the need to, survive, when they
Yeah.
are free to innovate and think and create and dream, we make brilliant things.
Yeah,
the
we do.
Vatican
Yeah.
government said to fucking Painty,
Yeah, Michelangelo.
Michelangelo, he's the best
Fucking
ninja
Painty.
turner.
Painty, yeah.
He's the best ninja turner.
Yeah.
His name. And they said, look, we'll fucking feed you. We'll give you some money. You create, you do art. Now, ideally, we can get rid of the government completely.
Well, that's
and
it.
Instead,
Yeah.
just say to artists, look, we'll feed you, just do good art. How fucking beautiful would that be?
Yeah, it would be, but the artist has to provide something that people want and that somebody wants to invest in.
Yeah, it's providing art. People want art. People want to look at pretty pictures.
Sure they do, and if they do, then they can buy it.
Yeah, great.
That's fine. Whereas a socialist government would come in and say, we need art. We're going to tax everybody in the country and we're going to put it into art funding programs.
Nah, a stagnating government would do that.
But it's normally left-wing governments that initiate these programs. They all want more taxes for things like art. They want libraries. They want all sorts of things that humanity would provide itself, having
but I'm saying we
taken
should-
off the shackles of things like taxes. Because it seems
I'm
like
saying we should move away from that. Though. I'm
Yeah,
saying let's instead empower people to be able to provide these services themselves by being cooperative.
yeah.
And I think the best way to do it is to smash all hierarchies, whether they are government hierarchies or corporate hierarchies,
Mm-hmm.
and instead have the mutual agreement that, hey, if I make this computer game, which in of itself nobody needs to survive but people enjoy,
Yeah.
well, you give me some potatoes.
And they'll probably say because
Yeah,
I
of
want to
course.
play your video.
Let's get rid of money.
Yeah.
Because money.
It's an extremely libertarian argument. Like
Yeah,
it's
but communism, the whole point of communism, the whole, Marx summed it up in one line: a classless, stateless, moneyless society where people are free to do
But
whatever.
again, I in this classless, stateless, moneyless society, am I able to exchange, for example, some of the gold that I have harvested from my mine with somebody who owns a bank in exchange for little tokens in order to represent that wealth or that asset, and then trade that with other people who also are members of this bank? I mean, it's
if you wanted to.
yeah. So that's a free market.
Yeah. Because communism is about doing a free market.
Because free banking is something that made Scotland thrive. Do you remember?
Yeah.
But do you remember the tea towel? There's a tea towel that says, when you wake up in the morning, you do this and you do that, and you step out in the tarmac and you switch on your telly and you phone your boss and all these types of things are all invented by Scottish people.
Yeah.
What did Scotland have? Back in the day when everybody was fucking inventing things, we had a free banking system and we had a free market, and we were pioneers of the fucking world. It wasn't until we started adopting more big government programs and becoming more like England is that we
Things
started to stagnate.
Exactly.
And now we're practically we're so far left now in this country, from the mainstream media's definition of left, that and this kind of, was it social democratic?
Yeah, so actually,
Yeah.
I moderate this group called Snuggly Wuggly Socialist, right?
Right.
Shout out, because I shared this to them on just before we
Right,
went live,
nice
so-
one, nice one. Hi everyone from Snuggly Wuggly Socialist.
It's Super Cammy Mod. I know you all hate me, but
Yeah.
um,
They're going to be so triggered. Are they triggered?
nah,
They get triggered easy
you know
on
what's
that?
brilliant about the group is, and this is why they ended up appointing me as a mod, because I keep saying to people, this is about the free exchange of socialist ideas. We've got tankies, we have got some liberals who are trying to learn, and we've got SJWs, and we are all trying to exchange socialist ideas. And
Yeah.
my job is to make sure you do it like a fucking adult.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah,
But we've got this offshoot group called the Snuggly Wuggly Siberian Summer Camp.
right,
The name's tongue in cheek,
right.
and the point is, it's a place for people who maybe aren't ready. Because the idea with Snuggly Wuggly Socialists is that you should have a grasp of Marxism before you join.
Yeah.
You should understand socialism.
I think I understand Marxism more than most socialists do.
Yeah, that's why we created the summer camp for
Yeah.
people who don't actually understand. These people who fucking protested after Trump, and these weren't socialists.
No.
These were liberals who say they're socialists to piss off mum and dad.
Or are they? Are they?
Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
The point is, on Snuggly Wuggly Siberian Summer Camp, we invite people to come and join the group and to ask questions and get one-on-one time with the moderators to speak to them. And one lovely American woman called Celinda, she asked, "What's a democratic socialist? What's a social democrat? And what's the fucking difference?"
Yeah.
And I was like, well, a democratic socialist is somebody who, like me, thinks that socialism can only work by being democratic. So they are a socialist and they are democratic. A social democrat is somebody who wants the current system to be a little bit happier.
Right.
And it doesn't fucking work.
No.
You need...
Are you a democracy fan in general?
It depends on what you mean by democracy.
Mob rule.
Then, no, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially when I think of democracy, I think of mob rule.
Yeah.
I mean, people were criticising the electoral college system in America right now, but it's a damn sight better than ours because.
It's really similar to ours.
Well, yeah, you're right. Actually,
Our
yeah.
whole system works on politeness. Like,
Yeah.
we appoint an MP, those MPs appoint a vote for a leader, and
Yeah.
the Queen appoints the leader of that party.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that. The Queen could go, I pick Caz to be the Prime Minister. Just
Fuck!
fucking because.
Ah!
Just go,
Liberty or death!
Yeah. Like the whole fucking thing, like the Queen doesn't need to pick up, like none of the, and there's nothing in law stopping somebody going, oh yeah, I'm Labour.
Yeah.
Yeah, vote for me because it's the Labour area. These are my Labour policies, and
Yeah.
now I'm the MP. Ah, I was UKIP. I was kidding. I'm in fucking UKIP.
Yeah.
The whole system is shit. We've got too many ineffective assholes on the top. We need innovative and creative people on the bottom creating shit. And we need to cultivate a system where humanity cooperates because they want to, rather than because they have to. Phase away taxis, replace them by just people who want to do things and are supported by people who want them to do those things, rather than saying, if you don't, we'll shoot you, or if you don't, I'll starve you.
Yeah.
That is what society should be.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I just want to smoke my weed and sit on my pile of money with my guns and my tanks and my Terminator and
And if you want those things, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you've got your pile of money, and most retailers go, we don't really do money, it's bits of paper.
Yeah.
If you want to give them to us, I guess. But
I'm going to hazard. I'm just going to take a wild stab in the dark because I'm not someone who operates on faith and say that I think we're probably going to keep money for a significant amount
fuck
of time.
yeah. I'm talking about 3,000 years later.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking about transhumanists. Space
Transhumanists,
communists.
where we've got fucking replicators and shit like that.
Yeah,
Of course,
absolutely.
but there were no need for fucking money at that point.
Because
Yeah.
Marx's whole thing is about material conditions.
Yeah,
you
it's-
can't do socialism or communism now.
Actually, Marx isn't really a socialist. He's a materialist. It's his theory of materialism.
Yeah, well, he's
Socialism
creating
is one.
dialectical materialism.
Yeah, that's it. And socialism is one of the aspects of his plan. I just think the plan should stop at capitalism because capitalism is what's providing the wealth in order to get the big government in the first place. What for me is, when do you figure out, okay, we've got enough wealth now implement the big government? When does that actually happen, and who decides? And then you've also got the end problem with the big government that ends up invariably saying,
Let's just do it forever.
it's
We'll
going
do
to be
this.
fine. You're going to end up with fucking Emperor Palpatine. It's like, I have emergency powers. I will give them back once we're done. I promise. Don't worry. Everything's going to be fine. Bum, 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 bum.
Say what
And
you
that's
want
why.
about Palpatine, but he created jobs.
Yeah,
and
but-
ended slavery.
Yeah, well, a government doesn't create jobs; they just dig up holes to fill them again.
Yeah.
But that's what the Death Star was. It was a massive waste of taxes. But that's essentially why I keep calling the empire socialism, is because it's this idea is like, oh, we have a really really big government, we'll get a really big government, and everybody's going to be fine, and we're going to provide everything that everybody needs. Ah, fuck, we've run out of money.
And
Ah,
that's what
shit,
you're
now you need a wheelbarrow full of money just to buy toilet paper.
Socialism's incompatible with big government because big government, by its nature, stagnates.
Exactly,
So you could maybe do socialism with a big government for 70 years, but at some point it's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
You need to start from day one saying, right, let's start devolving power to local communities and to workers' cooperatives, so that the government becomes completely fucking unnecessary.
I would hazard a guess that that I don't think there's going to be very many libertarians or ANCAPs that would disagree with that at all.
Yeah, completely. And that's what like your thing about how, look, if we want to do the People's Republic of Ancomistan in East Scotland and you want to be Mad Max, that's fine. That's fine. As long as people can choose where they want to go, there's no reason for that. And there's no reason why...
it.
And
Well,
temporary...
as I said this to one of the guys, one of the paleo-libertarians that believes in closed borders, I says, Ancapistan needs open borders because the people from Ancomistan need somewhere to flee. We've got jobs, guys. Come over. Everything's going to be fine.
You reminded me of a story about Marx, and I wanted to bring it up, was during Marx's lifetime, and obviously his book, the Communist Manifesto was around for loads of people, and the Capital as well. People were reading them, and people were starting to develop Marxism. And a German Socialist Party wrote to Marx, and they were like, look at everything we've achieved thanks to Marxism. And they were quite authoritarian. And Marx wrote back saying, if this is Marxism, I'm not a fucking Marxist.
Amazing quality.
Sassy bitch.
He is. Yeah, it is a bit.
I remember somebody bringing that up at a branch meeting.
I think it was my dad, probably, because it was him that told me that story.
Maybe it may have been actually.
So, I mean, are you guys pissed off with like how like Corbyn has been pushed as the fucking socialist hero? I mean, because all I can see is that we've become like the left and the right have become so similar that we've essentially become a liberal country, really kind of liberal.
Totally.
Like even the Tories are like even liberals are really well looked after by the Tories. You know, they brought in gay marriage, they did a whole load of tax reforms, this kind of thing. You know, so are you guys kind of pissed off with this idea that you know, like, because as far as I'm concerned, Corbyn is an extremist. Like some of the stuff that he's got ideas for in terms of the big government stuff and all that kind of thing are extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
So is this kind of does this kind of narrative kind of piss you guys off as socialists, as it's not really
Kinda.
what socialism is?
The thing is, because I really wondered about this about Corbyn and Bernie Sanders, because they are very similar people. They are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, and they're both
and they
economically illiterate. Like,
well, that's not entirely accurate.
yeah.
They both certainly claim to be socialists of some kind.
Yeah.
But whether, and this is what really confused me, because I don't know the answer to this. And unlike most people, I'm not afraid of the afraid. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Is Jeremy Corbyn a socialist who's lost his way? Has he went, yeah, I'm definitely a socialist. Oh, this big government idea is good. This is the idea. I'm going to keep calling myself socialist, but I'm really into this. Or is he a socialist who's going, if I came onto the platform and said, let's do a revolution, nobody would fucking vote for me. So what I need to do is have these
farm votes.
Yeah, I need to do these big government policies. I need to say these things that other people are doing.
And that's the problem with the system. You know, it's that you cannot be a politician in this country without endorsing the NHS. It's just not possible. Just can't do it. I mean, it's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to quite happily oppose the NHS, but not from the perspective of privatisation, because we both know that doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, it's and this is the problem with we were talking about earlier on. It's now right wing is now a pejorative for politics. I don't like.
You need people who want to run hospitals running hospitals.
Yeah, that's it. We need to Uberify hospitals. You know, we need to let because Uber is now
like rapists in the hospitals.
Yeah, that's
Did they expect that to go off?
That's an optional extra. No, no, we need to listen. Taxi drivers started running their own taxi firms. Funny how that works. Yeah. You know, so I say doctors should run their own hospitals. They should run their own surgeries. They should be able to go, I don't want this 120-hour-a-week fucking contract for fucking peanuts. I want to go off and provide a service for somebody else, and without the red tape, and allow my brain to then come up with solutions to problems that people have. And sometimes a lot of those solutions are set, like, look at, this is something that you'll appreciate, is alternative medicine. Now, there's a lot of alternative medicine that's actually in NHS hospitals. Like, you can go and see a homeopathic doctor and you can sit down with them for an hour
That is fucking
and talk to your
scary.
problems.
The NHS is paying these liars.
Yeah.
To fucking...
Well, exactly, right? But do you know what it is? They are providing a service, and that service they're providing is helping the patient. And I think a lot of it is to do with this fact that, you know, they've got a very nice man. They're all, every single homeopathic remedy person that I've met, they're always like really
super
fucking
nice.
nice
They're
people.
really nice people. They need to be
Really,
nice.
really
Are
nice
these
people.
Because they're saying
actually-
fuck all. They're saying nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
They need to be nice.
Are these people actually employed by the NHS, or are they self-employed people who like buy any
I
space
think
in an NHS
I
hospital?
watched a documentary. It was a Richard Dawkins documentary when he went down to a hospital down south where I think it was £7 million of NHS money was spent on a ward simply for homeopathic remedies.
Yeah, there is definitely some part.
But do you know what? Do you know what they do? Is it's not part of the NHS.
Yeah.
It makes money, and that money goes into the hospital.
All
So
right.
that's good,
Yeah.
right? So I support that. I'm happy for people to buy all of the fucking water
Yeah,
pills
people can
they want.
buy whatever nonsense they
Yeah,
fucking like.
buy your snake oil, bash on, right? It's absolutely fine. But what I'm getting at is the service that these guys provide is arguably better than any GP. There's people going in there and they're depressed, they're feeling down, they've got stomach ulcers, they're stressed. And they go in and they get and they think the little sugar pill is doing them the good, but actually it might just be the hour consultation with the expert in front of them that's telling them all the things they
you know
want to
what?
hear,
I am
that's
going to
making
be
them feel
so
better.
bitchy, but we at the in fact, I'm going to let me be too specific because I'll get in trouble for this, and I've argued about it like fucking black and blue with various people in the party. But we had somebody who came to share their story because Solidarity policy
I know about that.
is legalise weed.
Yeah.
Because decriminalise it, because fuck it, and it's apparently good for medicine. So
Yeah.
we had this woman, she came and shared.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure we were on the same status.
Yeah, we fucking were, because it was the same one. Oh, this is a brilliant story, actually. So basically, this woman, I didn't know who she was, but she was going on about medical marijuana. And I basically replied to them, like, there's actually no scientific evidence whatsoever that suggests that weed can cure cancer.
There's no evidence, yeah.
That it works in a pastry dish. Petri dish.
Saying cannabis cures cancer is as bad as saying it doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There is no evidence.
Yeah.
There is the only human trial that was ever done. Basically, the result was it didn't make a fucking difference.
Yeah.
But what cannabis absolutely does do, is makes life fucking bearable for people who are doing chemotherapy.
Well, this is the thing as well. There's a lot. There is evidence to suggest that if you suffer from mental health issues from the perspective of like schizophrenia, and you take weed, it can have adverse effect on your symptoms. But what I actually spoke to somebody who was schizophrenic, and he used to smoke the most ridiculously like high-powered fucking genetically engineered skunk stuff that I've ever seen, and it was ridiculous stuff that I wouldn't even
Sounds
touch.
awesome.
But he used to smoke this stuff all the time, and he was schizophrenic and he was on heavy medication. He says, yes, it does exacerbate some symptoms, but it alleviates others, and it helps me make that decision. It helps. I would rather be paranoid than hear voices. I would, stuff like that. I would rather be a bit lazy or whatever. And I've spoken to doctors, even psychiatric doctors, about this as well, and they are generally, any doctor that is of any sort of opinion that isn't BMA approved is that if it helps the patient, they don't give a fuck, really. It's about helping people.
Absolutely turn a blind eye.
I mean, I maybe I shouldn't say this, but a lot of doctors used to turn a blind eye to my cannabis smoking back in the day, because I've had a lot of mental health issues when I was growing up and things like that. And when I used to go to see psychologists and things, there would be a very small amount of them who go, "This is making things worse. Please stop it," and all that kind of thing. The BMA approved, instruction manual delivered diagnosis.
They were young.
Yeah, well, perhaps, and then we get this other one, and other ones that are saying, "How is it affecting you?"
Yeah.
And they would actually just inquire. They would just be like, right, what's happening? I said, well, and I would say, well, my appetite's up. I'm actually, I'm feeling a bit more creative.
Totally.
It keeps my anxiety down. I can be a bit more social and stuff when I'm still. And he says that actually sounds like it's helping you. And that's all they're interested
What there
in.
needs to be is an open and frank fucking study, and each of these illegal
Yeah, it
substances
does.
goes, actually, weed is fucking harmless.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
Okay, cocaine. It's quite dangerous. We're not going to ban it, but we're not going to import it.
Well, this is the thing when we're talking about things that are risky, and you can talk about this when you're talking about caffeine and alcohol and paracetamol. Is like you always when it comes to illegal drugs, we're always talking about the risks but never the benefits. And when it comes to legal drugs, you will talk about the benefits and never the risks.
Well, that's the thing. Because like I'm a comfort eater, right? I'm a fat bastard. And the thing
Second that.
yeah. And here's the thing. Like, I started comfort eating because I suffer with depression, and pizza makes me happy.
Sure.
And eventually people would call me fat, and I used to be really upset. And I thought, I have to start running. And I'd run for like 10 minutes and go, I fucking hate this.
I'm miserable, yeah.
I hate this. I love pizza.
Yeah.
And I'm happy.
That's
I'm
it.
I'm not happy. I'm fucking miserable all the time, but it's no pizza that makes me miserable.
Yeah, but the risks, any risks that you
I
take
have
in order
chosen
to...
that risk
Yeah.
because I think the benefit's better.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
like pizza, masturbating on Xbox, and that's what I'm going to do rather than going to
It's a
the
cost-benefit
High five on
analysis.
that, Big Chief.
Bang!
It's a cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah.
Ironically, you've just said a very Randian thing. That's what.
Randian or, fucking
I,
body man.
I have been called a Randian.
Anyway, sorry, I'll finish my story because I've got completely
Yeah.
sidetracked. So basically, I basically argued with this woman on Facebook saying, it's nonsense, it's all magic. Then we went to a party conference and they said, we've got a guest speaker. And it's a woman who's going to speak to us about cannabis. And it was fucking her. I was like,
Oh
fuck.
my god.
But I kind of kept in my head and I ignored it. And I listened to her story and that. And what really fucking annoyed me, because her story was how the chemotherapy wasn't working. It wasn't working. And I started fucking rubbing magic oil on my gums and it cured my fucking cancer.
Right.
But what she fucking left out of the story, right? And I noticed it because I, as a sort of trader, analyse stories.
Sure.
And mostly comics, but also bullshit.
Bullshit is interesting.
Yeah. And the thing that she fucking left out of that story, and I was going to call her out on it, I fucking stuck my hand in there, and my dad went, get your fucking hand in. And I was like, right, okay, sorry, Dad.
One authoritarian. Is that Colin?
Thank you, yeah, Colin.
Shout out to Colin. I think we've only ever exchanged each other on Facebook.
Mention
Amicably, I
it.
might add. We've
Yeah, he's the same as me. We didn't get it.
Yeah.
But the thing she left out was she still doing chemotherapy? She left that out deliberately because I think she fucking was, and I think that's what cured her fucking tumour.
Right,
But that's
yeah,
the thing.
maybe.
Every single time this cancer thing comes up, if it's a big enough story where people have had the resources to go and check with the doctors and stuff like that, it's always came back that they've had an operation to get the tumour removed, and the rest of it, they've been in remission before they started the cannabis.
The
Or,
cannabis helped me stay in remission.
There
Well,
was that one guy.
so did the weather.
There was
So
that
there's-
one
there's
guy who
always-
was like, "Oh yeah, it's cured. I'm completely done," and then died 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
And but the point is like chemotherapy is fucking hell. Like I had a mate, she
Yeah,
was only
yeah.
19. She developed cancer and she went through the process. And I went to see her a couple of times in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I spoke to her and she was like, "It's fucking hell. I hate this. It's miserable."
Yeah.
And all the symptoms that chemotherapy gives you are alleviated by smoking pot. It's a painkiller. It gives you a better appetite.
Yeah.
It's all fucking legal. It
of
gives
course,
these people.
you're also just living on Doritos at that point, though. That's maybe a downside.
Yeah.
Of course. Like, give people fucking the means to make this treatment bearable.
Bearable for themselves,
But
yeah.
don't fucking say it's magic. Don't say, oh yeah, it'll cure your fucking disease.
Yeah.
Say, this will augment your medicine.
But again, it's like the only way to guarantee that people will make the best decisions or people will make the best decisions, period, is if they're only making decisions for themselves.
Yeah, completely.
So if you make a complete decision for yourself, people have accused me of, when subscribing to libertarianism, and ANCAPism as being selfish, the whole "I'm all right, Jack" kind of thing. And it's like, well, that's true because I am selfish. I'm not going to deny it. Altruism is a lie. It's an evil lie, and everybody should just do what's in their own rational self-interest. And if anybody wants to contradict me on that, if anybody wants to challenge me on that, I'm happy to accept challenges for things like that. It's like people say, "Oh, would you walk past and leave a person dying in the street?" I'm like, well, no, of course not. That's a member of my local community. It's within my best interest to promote this idea of charity and being good towards others and things like that. And I'm an intelligent person that wants to set that example. So there's always a selfish reason for behind decision making, and the more we can facilitate that selfish greed, if you want to call it that way, then the more we can help channel that into doing good things for others, then the better off we're all going to be.
I think every step we take towards the concept of money disappearing is better for humanity as a whole. Here's an interesting thing, and I was speaking about this with somebody else and I wanted to bring it up, is about homelessness. Because, and this is going to sound fucking bizarre, right? But you know what? One of the best things you can do for homeless people is make the street comfy. because people like to think that it's just a case of there's 1,000 houses, there's 50 homeless people, put them in one of the 1,000 houses. But it's not that fucking simple.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of homeless people are mentally ill and they find the idea of living in a house fucking restrictive. Like, they fucking hate it and they leave. And their mental health never gets addressed because they have no fucking address. So what you want to do is you want to have easy access to housing for people who just need help getting in a house.
Yeah.
But also for people who either don't want to or for whom the process is taking too long. Hey, comfy fucking benches.
Yeah.
Give them somewhere comfortable and warm to sleep so that they're not going to die.
Yeah.
And then, but if you say that, people will say you hate the homeless. I say, no, I don't hate the homeless. I love the homeless. I want to help the homeless. I want their life to be better while they're trying to either get in the system or avoid the system.
No, I can understand that. I'm not sure I 100% agree with it. Just from the perspective of, you know, when you hand something to someone, you know, that's if you hand something to someone without giving them pathways to become sort of self-sufficient, I think that's antithesis of compassion. I think what we should be doing is empowering them to do whatever it is that they want to do. And there is many different factors when it comes to homelessness, especially when it comes to if they're sleeping on, you know, private land, or if they're, you know, and things like that. But you know, I hear about this thing about the spikes, but they're putting spikes everywhere to stop homeless people lying around and things, and it's like, well, is it spending that public money such a good idea? Hell, if you're a private company, you want to put spikes all over your fucking land, bash on. I don't give a fuck.
I'm
but when
not
it comes to
gonna give
public,
you services if you do it.
well, exactly. Yeah. Well done. Yeah, that's it. You know, you put the power into the hands of the consumer. But but in terms of public places, I mean, you know, there's a lot of these kind of hand waving solutions, and it's really not solving any problems. You know. But you actually brought up a really interesting point there, you know, when you consider the fact that there's a lot of people that just don't want to be homed. Yeah. They would rather have a life on the street. They would, you know, there maybe are this, you know, I'm sure there must be. I remember there was a homeless person who lived in Edinburgh, and he used to walk up and down Leith Walk every day, every single day. We'd come out to the Seabreeze Cafe, we'd get himself a roll, and he would piss off again. And he was like matted, you know, he had this mad mound of hair. It was like a mane that went all the way down to his arse, and it was like all matted and stuff. And he was basically, he had like half one shoe on, and he was walking around and things like that. It's clear he'd been living like that for decades. Yeah. You know, and when it's almost like, you know, prisoners getting used to their bars.
There's people that when they come out, they get so much anxiety, they just can't walk about without being in a cell. It's like which to me it sounds insane. But
and the hermit is still game.
Yeah.
You know, when he came out, no, the Archie's coming out. Archie's coming out.
Doctor Who.
And he came.
Doctor Who.
Yeah, he was Doctor Who.
Radagast the Brown.
Yeah, and Radagast.
He was Radagast the Brown.
He was Sylvester McCoy.
I've never watched Doctor Who, so I don't know.
I've not seen it, but
that's pretty
he
cool.
was the last Doctor Who, the original series.
Right. But yeah, that's essentially it. But yeah, I think we've you know, again, had a conversation where we pretty much agree on 95% of everything. Yeah,
it's the application that it's. We want the same result. You want to suck off as the CEO, and I want to suck off fucking Marx's corpse.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I was meant to steer you in a certain way, but you seem to be pretty good at doing that yourself.
Yeah,
you naturally flowed into different conversations.
I'm sure there was points we missed and stuff, and people are free to pull us up on them. And if there's any claims we made that anybody wants to find sources for, just get in touch. Where fire it on my Facebook page. That's where you spend most of the time.
Would you be up for doing this again if we got a bunch of questions for people?
Definitely. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, it'd be really good.
It's been very so I'll ask again, so get ready to answer the same question. Would you be up for coming back again to answer some questions if we were to say?
Yeah, completely. Like, because one of the things that I said this to Caz in a fairly mushy status ages ago, because we debated it, I can't even remember what we were debating about, but you made the point somewhere in the post that I was one of the people whose opinions you respect and listen to.
Yeah.
And Derek chimed in and went, you guys been friends for years? I was like, me and Caz have been friends for years. I'm not going to throw away a friendship because we happen to be butterflied on the political spectrum.
Totally, yeah.
I'm going to listen to what Caz has to say. I'm going to respect. I'm going to speak. And we're going to wind each other up and rib into each other. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we're going to be mates. And we're going to come,
of course,
put that aside. And that's important. Because I absolutely appreciate that Caz is a confused Marxist who we agree on a lot of the same things, and we agree on how society should be, just not necessarily how society should be built. So I'm always happy to like chat with Caz about things.
See, what I've learned here, right? So, I probably shouldn't be admitting this, but I avoided using the word communist because of the assumption that when you say you're a communist, that you want that right now. But that doesn't
I
necessarily...
totally get that, yeah. But I think we were deliberately sort of playing off the because we're both anarchists. And I think we were playing off the different flavours of anarchism.
See, I've always avoided anarchy because I've always assumed if you do it right now, it's going to be a mess.
Blame the Hollywood. Blame Hollywood for that. Movies like The Purge, V for Vendetta. I watched V for Vendetta the other day, and it was the first time I watched it since I'd actually become politically enlightened. Since I took the fucking red pill, right? Let's put it that way. And I think I watched it when it first came out, and I thought it was amazing, and it was really good. And I was like, fucking right, yeah, this is fucking, yeah, we should do it. I watched it the other day, and I was like, this is a fucking load of shit.
But would you agree that some anarchists are that silly version of anarchy?
Yeah, well,
like,
they're the posers. They're the
The
posers, yeah. There's a lot of posers. There's a lot of guys who think anarchy is basically just setting a bin on fire and throwing it at the nearest fucking,
rappers,
you know.
is what I found. Being
Right.
part of the hip hop community in Scotland, I found that a lot of rappers are that sort of.
Well, we're talking about music being one of the most capitalist pursuits there is, because you know you're literally using the sweat of your brow to earn money. You know,
you own the means of your own production.
You own the means of your own production.
Yeah. The big thing, sorry, just to go back onto this, if people ask me what do I believe in politically, I'll say anarchy and communism.
Yeah.
If people say, well, how do you achieve that? I'll say socialism.
Yeah.
Monarchic socialism. I think I made up the word monarchic, but I didn't make up monarchy.
Yeah.
But monarchic socialism, that's how I think we fucking achieve it.
Yeah. For me, it's like people ask me, am I an ANCAP, anarcho-capitalist, or am I a libertarian? Or am I an agorist? I says, well, I'm all three.
All these things.
Remind me what an agorist is.
An agorist is someone who believes in counter-economics.
Right.
So you're talking. Agorism is a political strategy in the same way that socialism is a political strategy. Libertarianism is a political philosophy. It's based on a set of principles, and I think anarcho-capitalism is a political ideal. It's a mechanism. It's a system. Whereas, or the lack thereof. And people ask me which one of these are you, and I say I believe that libertarianism is the delivery method for which we could achieve an anarchist society, and an anarchist society that thrives on the wealth created by capitalism.
What I find is a really good
robots and cyberpunk.
Hooray for robots! Space communism, luxury gay space communism.
Go up into space and do all the communism you want.
We're going to build a sun gulag, by which we mean we're going to gather up all the capitalists and fire them into the fucking sun.
As long as there's weed there, I don't give a fuck.
It's the sun, mate. No, but political compass tests are usually quite fun. If you're the kind of fucking nerd that likes political compass tests.
He apparently is just a Green Party member.
Really? Did you? We need to teach you some economics.
But what I usually did, and I think Caz probably does as well, is you answer the questions based on how you want society to be.
Funnily enough, I don't. I actually answer the questions based on a very fundamental set of principles, based on the here and now. And if a question, if a question doesn't align, or if I don't understand the question, I'll either skip it or I'll guess.
What I did was I normally do it. I base it on the concept, say, anarcho-communism.
Yeah.
So I was like, how should society be like this? And it puts me way down the bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah.
But when I answer the questions from the perspective of what will a socialist world look like while we're building anarcho-communism, it ramps me right up to fucking Trotskyist. So it's like, okay, fair enough, I'll wear that badge. And that's why I made up that sort of funny thing. But if I die, remember me as the anarchist I wanted to be, not the Stalinist I became.
Yeah.
And there's a really good one that I think everybody should download called Vote One.
That's where we got the...
Get it on the Google Play Store.
It gives you a rough label and then it says, read this book, you might like it.
Yeah, just ignore the trickle-down economics question.
It's horseshit.
Yeah.
There's always a question in these things that didn't really have an answer.
Yeah.
Or that every answer you give isn't really what you believe. Yeah. You've just sort of to make a sacrifice.
There's a lot of questions there. It's just like, pick a colour, red or blue. It's like kind of right wing or left wing. That's there's a lot of them.
That's
like
the
that.
problem with them. There's always at least one, and you can never get a full.
Yeah, but when I did it, I was at the very far corner of the bottom right. Right at the very bottom right at the fucking guns and money bit. That's it. Aye.
That's how it goes if you don't agree with me.
If I'm not in the green zone, I'm a fascist. That's how it works. Yeah. But it's funny. I saw an image. It was the political spectrum according to ANCAPs, and it was basically just the communist flag with a tiny wee square cut out at the bottom. That's pretty much it. And there's a guy in our group. I won't mention his name, but he's. I don't think he likes me very much because I basically called him conservative, posing as a libertarian. Because there's a lot of people that want to wear the libertarian badge because I think it takes a lot of balls to be a libertarian and things like that. You know, a lot of people believe in freedom until you tell them sweatshops are great, and then they go, "Oh my god, you're a fucking lunatic." And I'm like, "No, let's have a conversation." They're like, "No, racist." So that's how that goes. But so there's a lot of people that wear this badge of libertarianism because now of the symptom that if you associate yourself with the right, you're basically a fascist. You know, people will not tolerate your opinion if you're part of the right. I've had so many friends that used to be my friends during the independence referendum that have just blocked me. I've never seen them again and things like that. Hell, I changed my profile picture to can't stump the Trump at one point just for a laugh, you know, and I got like 3 or 4 people just block me, and I was like, well, that's a cull I don't have to do myself. Thanks very much, guys.
I think that happens the other way to me as well, like, because obviously being very far left, I get blocked by left people and right wing people. Yeah,
because left wing and right wing people are neither.
Yeah, because they're liberals.
Yeah, they're all liberals. Yeah,
I posted that thing saying, you know, be like Indiana Jones and punch a fucking Nazi in the face. And that fucking kid from Minmax blocked me on Facebook.
Which one?
The guy who's really into Trump, the young guy.
Oh no,
young skinny kid.
Oh, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, so he blocked. I was like, fucking hell, man.
Oh, I can't. I don't know which guy you're talking about because there's a few of them, but there's a few of those guys that are quite politically aligned with me. It's quite a fun conversation, but yeah, there's yeah. I don't know. I'll maybe if you're listening, mate, unblock him. He's only kidding.
I wasn't kidding. Punch the Nazis.
Yeah.
But organised so that punching Nazis is actually going to be an effective thing to do rather than just showboating.
Yeah.
As a lefty, do you also suffer people arguing against sort of GMOs a lot?
Yeah.
Because during the Scottish Parliament election, that was the first thing I asked pretty much every party, and the only party I'm really depressed to say this, the only party that I agreed with was the Liberal Democrats. They were the only party.
What was their approach?
What do you mean?
What was their approach to GMOs?
Oh, their approach was to get rid of the ban on GMOs in Scotland and bring them back into.
Yeah. GMOs, I don't see what the fucking problem is.
No, I don't know.
Why don't you want super potatoes?
Yeah, I don't understand it. I don't see what the problem is from the perspective of why am I not allowed super potatoes?
Yeah.
Like, don't eat all the shit covered potatoes you want. Yeah. I want a 3D printed steak. Yeah, is that alright?
Like, actually,
and, you know what I mean? And the thing is, what do you mean by GMO? Because selective breeding is genetically modified.
Of course it is.
If you say, hey, this crop's really fucking good and that crop's really fucking good, that's breeding.
Oh, you don't like GMO? Throw away all your bananas because they don't look like that, pal.
You seen a banana?
I know, they're fucking shite. Yeah, little tiny little
apples taste like shit if
yeah, of course.
Apples only fucking taste good if they're clones.
While
an apple seed, it tastes like fucking shit.
But there is a legitimate argument from I wouldn't even say it was a leftist argument because there are people on the ANCAP side of things that argue this as well. It's like you don't necessarily want you know, inept scientists playing God, you know, and that's a bit of a problem.
And I think that's part of my issue as well, because when people say GMO, they think you're fucking Dr. Frankenstein.
Aye.
Where he's fucking electric hitting the totty to turn it into a Frankenstein.
That's why you always see the anti-GMO image the new is just an apple with a syringe in it. That's not fucking GMO.
No, that's not GMO. That's amazing. Sauteed with peas and onions. But yeah, I think we've expended our.
I'm fine with GMOs.
We're at almost 2 hours, and the podcast tomorrow night is only a 3-hour podcast, and we've got an hour already. So we need to leave now. Is essentially what's happening. Good. So if you've got anything else to say, make it snappy in about 30 seconds.
To shout out any links or stuff like that.
Yeah, so I've got a blog, website ronvalron.co.uk. It's where I'm posting excerpts in my book. Now that's what I call socialism. And it's basically a guide to my beliefs and understanding of socialism, starting with a rapid defence of the USSR. No, it's a bit more nuanced.
Oh my god!
And also, if you're into socialism, you want to learn more from us, join the Stuff with the Ugly Socialists.
Cool. I myself, a A lot of the arguments I got off today is from reading a book that one of my friends called Antony Sammeroff wrote. He wrote a book called Misconceptions of Capitalism, and I'll provide a link because it's a complicated link. So I'll provide it, and it's a free ebook that you can download, and every leftist should read it. It really highlights, the essence of what capitalism is without the images of the monopoly guy. So that's good. And if anybody's agrees with anything that I said today, feel free to just add me on Facebook or join the Scottish Libertarian group on Facebook, which is always a barrel of laughs and controversy. Anthony's a great guy. He actually runs we do a Scottish Liberty podcast as well. They do one in Edinburgh with our party leader Tam. Can't remember his last name off the top of my head now, but Tam and Antony they run it and are just great couple of guys and really down to earth. So that's something else to check out if you're interested in libertarianism or ANCAP policies or ideas. It's a good shout to.
Bring me on and I'll argue with them. It'll be fun.
Oh, you absolutely should. Yeah, Anthony's just got a very low tolerance for bullshit and kind of nonsense and needless aggression. I think Antony is actually Jesus. Like, I think because he's the most kind of he's the most kind of placid. Like he's like, you know, I was on the Liberty podcast once talking about environmentalism and how we kick the Greens' asses in terms of being hippies and environmental stuff. And he's spot on. He's the free market hippie. You should definitely check him out. His article on the minimum wage is what made me a libertarian, and it's called "The Road to Hell is Paved with Good Intentions," and it's on the ScottishLibertarian.com website. There's a lot of plugs,
Right.
but I'm the capitalist, so.
We're done.
Grey Rock Records.
Yo.
Aberdeen MCs. Listen up.
I breeze through a cityscape, shifting shape as I innovate. I debilitate fakes who imitate, balance your fate on spinning plates. My hand grip's a pen that brings a change. Talents connect and hit a vein. Rain clouds are there precipitate as the flood flow eliminates snakes, leaving nothing in its wake. I've been rocking since the day I was given life, destined to be gripping mics and spitting ice. Living wise cause I'm seeing shit through different eyes. Sit inside but we never try and change shit. Keep writing till the words start jumping off the pages, converting all my stresses into physical creations. You little pricks are basic, I'm older than I ain't shit. Willing to deliver the most visceral of statements. So stand down before the sad clown gets a happy slap. It's your mad jack and I'm fucking having that. Welcome to my habitat where everybody seems sad. Walk around the night and fight the demons with their teeth out. Dropping out the shadows just to rob you for your £3. It's heaven where I'm at, so best to always keep your heat down. Lost city, palace of sin, where the fiends proud. Shit is heavy hidden, but I'm hoping that you see now the end of the beginning, and I'm fucking up the scene now. It's Jackill, G.O.D, floating in between clouds. What?
It's a picture painted careful with my blood and my tears. You should come a little closer if you struggle to hear. I'm in the third dimension where we have to hustle for years. You know the truth and never told you got nothing to fear, because they can't keep up with the youth. It's not another trend when I spit inside the booth. Listen, I was penning bars that would get you in the groove. See, my life's a moving and it flows too truly, generating sharp peaks, accelerating heartbeats. As long as I got weed, no one can stop me. Not the pop on the radio nor the power of kings. I take flight in the sky like I'm about to roll wings. I said rap star, silence with the fashion. Number one attraction, hit them spitting passion. Hidden mystic dragon, hedonistic dragon. You know who Mr. Jam is, G.O.D the mom, bitch.
Yeah, what? Yeah, you're half stepping when you're repping that generic rhetoric. I bury it, I'm on that better shit. I endorse the raw shit, you force it. Whatever the weather, man, I'm the dopest, of course, kid. On the North Shore, bending balls when that demigod set me off course. With the pause and forget me not, rip me off raw. The cheesy show ponies know me. It's Joe with those easy Ozzy flows only. Rolls on the need to know like jabroni. Insane what you're saying, Kevin Spacey on the plane. So chop, knocking your socks off. Fans all shopping at Top Shop. My gang is top notch. Smash wax fake, skates on my back, H tracks like the wax from back in the day. Take a break bread with the bass head. Shaman's ashamed of the fakes in the same bed. To shake off the shit that they said. Rise up, yo, don't touch my stuff. Just lie back and look at the sky, bro.
You feel the fractals of back. Ripple descendants inside of your stomach from pimping me raps. You give it the passion, lack of the buzz. Right, the sober was heavily marking it tough and doubling the love. The fit once was will always and forever be. We see needle injections, striking the sense. If you took the time to read between the lines, just living, you can see the shortcut. I said the bond to be your core connection. Next gen progression, just another brick inside the wall of dirty depression. Content decide to sell, you sit. Take another number and wait break. If you're sick of waking up to the same shit for wage slips.
What the fuck are you saying, Aberdeen?
That was, of course, Jackill with a track called Lost City. I'm trying to find the fucking link there. Jackill from the L Collective, Lost City, featuring Big G.O.D, Mello, Joe, and Nabu. It's fantastic. I love that tune, man. It's fucking brilliant. I got it last week, but we couldn't play it last week because I got it like a couple of hours later, annoyingly. So it's good. I like it. I like it a lot.
Dope.
So we had a cool fucking debate there for 2 hours. I just got all my washing done while it was all happening. It was fucking fantastic. You had your tea. It was great.
Before we go on, can I quickly get 2 plugs with the way?
Alright, go for it, man.
First plug is a basic income meeting on Saturday 28th. I suggest people go to it even if you didn't agree with the basic income, purely because it's going to be a trial in Fife, and regardless of whether you agree with it or not, you're going to get it.
Is that coming soon?
Probably in the next couple of years.
Oh,
You've got time, but it's coming probably whether you like it or not. So you may as well learn about it, and it's a free event on Saturday 28th. Just Google basic income Kelty and it'll come up. It's like the third link to get tickets for it.
Excellent.
The second one is there's a fucking Solidarity branch meeting. The first one in Kennewy, fucking big ups Kennewy by the way, on the 6th of February at the Sandy Bray Centre, 7:30. So I just thought I'd get the plugs out the way because I'll forget if I didn't.
That's fair enough.
And we've been sitting here for 2 hours waiting to speak again.
We've had a lot of work done. It's cool.
Aye.
Cool. I liked it. Got the house looking tidy and shit in that 2 hours. It's fantastic. It was a great debate. I think my idea was to get them back in at some point and maybe take questions for a lot of people that were listening in. If there was any stuff you think wasn't covered perfectly, of course it wasn't. That's just the way it goes.
Because we've been sitting watching Facebook to see people reacting because people didn't fucking speak on the live chat that's here. So we've been looking in other places for the live chat.
That's it.
And there's been a few folks saying they wish they were able to get involved in some way in the conversation.
Yep.
One person. But let's just pretend there's a few. So
that's cool. I'll go over how you get in touch. But what I'm going to say is, before you get in touch, if you have any questions you want to ask us, sort of to put forward to the guys the next time, I'm not sure when we'll get them back in. We've got busy lives, I'm assuming. So we'll try and get them in again. But if you've got questions, we could ask them directly when they come here. We'll go through everything. Because you had a few things that you were like, oh, missed that there. So they could probably get you to ask if you remember.
I can't remember the now.
Well, there you go.
So
you might need to listen to that again. When you have 2 years of your life away.
Yes.
There you go. As I say, on these podcasts, I know they're a bit long, but there is the great ability for you to pause stuff.
Obviously not on the live one.
on the live one, obviously.
But it's...
you have to wait till the end. Once you wait till the end, once the final song is done, give it about 5 minutes, refresh the page, then you'll be able to actually download the full episode. Only takes 5 minutes, 5 minutes of your time. You could go away and put your washing on, whatever, get a cup of tea made. Come back, click
Make
on
a
download.
microwave for pizza.
Exactly. You do whatever you want. It's perfect. So you could, as I
Yeah,
say,
Pokemon Monk.
you could pause and have a look. Do whatever you want, man. It's perfect. So I think we'll go on with the kind of the final edge. We'll
So
just
with the Yankee debate.
it was pretty cool. There was a lot of stuff I didn't understand.
Aye.
Of course there was. Tons I didn't understand. It was a bit
I reckon
too
if it was in the podcast or whether it was when we were speaking afterwards, but I had to admit that I had been avoiding telling people that I'm a communist, and I actually said that I wasn't a communist specifically because right now I don't think communism works.
Right.
And then it occurred that communists aren't talking about the next 10, 15 years. They're talking about over a long fucking period of time. And I guess in that case, I am probably technically an anarchist communist, but I probably still won't use that because if everything goes perfectly, I'm still never going to see communism. So I don't see the point in me spending my life calling myself something that I'm never going to be able to achieve.
No.
Or even conceivably see happening. So socialist still makes more sense to me.
That's fine.
To use. So
Aye.
it's not that I disagree with communism. I just don't think it fits me.
Aye. To the period that you're in
Aye.
right now. That's it. Well, there you go. That makes sense. That makes sense more than anything else.
I think that's fair.
Totally, man. Totally.
Also, I had the assumption that it was going to be. We had planned this debate to happen months ago, but it was two different people. It was going to be Dr. Carlo Morelli, who's a historical economic lecturer.
Aye, and where was it again?
At St Andrews or
St
Dundee
Andrews.
University.
Aye.
It was at a university, and he was going to be debating. He's been on the podcast as well, by the way, and we spoke a bit about socialism. And Antony Sammeroff, who's in the Scottish Libertarian Party. So it was going to be them debating, where it was going to be probably quite a long, sort of drawn out academic debate, probably full of figures and statistics and a bunch of shit that people would just
But I suppose the right people would tune in because that's what they want to
maybe
hear.
but I don't know if we've got many of the right people interested in the podcast right now.
I think it would just be the people that they are friends with that would probably listen to it.
Probably, yeah.
Aye. Unless we found a way you can advertise it in a sense.
I'm not
for
sure
other people.
how well I would do in that debate.
I think
'Cause
well,
I reckon-
I would be dead. I would be dead.
Because in that debate, there was a few questions that Caz had. And I'm like, thank fuck I'm not the one answering straight away here. Give me 5 minutes to think about it and then I'll fucking reply. But Ron was able to just be like, I totally agree, or no, that's bullshit, or maybe here and there. But I was fucking no chance. Ron is quite clearly much more of an intellectual socialist than I am. And I'm not afraid to say that. Sure, that's why he's debating and I'm not. That's why that happens.
That's it.
But I'm quite happy with how that went. A lot of people were probably bored, but I was fucking essentially.
We had quite a few listeners. I'm going to kind of double check again how much listeners we actually had during that. I'm not saying they're actually still going to be on the. So at 49, that's it, now. So that's 49 individuals we had involved there. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's a lot higher than we usually get live.
Oh, definitely.
A lot of fucking higher, man. So that's cool, man. So what we'll say is we'll go through the last sort of part. All the links and everything are available to get in touch with. Like I think Ron was talking about his Facebook group that he's involved in and his blog.
Snuggly Wuggly Socialists.
Aye. And then he was talking about his blog. Caz was talking about Antony Sammeroff's book and the Scottish Libertarian Facebook. All the links are in the description. So if you're listening on YouTube, it's just below. Speaker the same. SoundCloud. It's all the same. It's all the same. All the descriptions are below. So I think that's about it, man. I think that's definitely about it.
No. If it wasn't clear, by the way, me and Ron are in the same party.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that came across.
Oh.
Might have, might not have, but
I think you said it right at the beginning.
Maybe.
No, because you were like, you being part of the
Well,
same party.
I did say that I was a socialist, and Caz knew I was a socialist, so I'll shut the fuck up.
There you go.
Aye,
Perfect.
fair enough.
We'll go through the list of the links to check. Okay, weekly podcasts on. I need to change that. On Mondays and Thursdays, Thursday nights live. If you want to check them out, speaker.com/user/BTN podcast. So just basically, if you click follow, you'll get updated with all the new stuff. You could sign up for Facebook and you could chat and everything as well. Please use the chat box. It's much better when we have people talking as well. Because we can talk back to you as well. It's great. It's great to go through that. So I follow to be updated as much with other streams and stuff like that. And we also have like kind of special live streams and stuff now and again, like the debate yesterday. So there you go. You get to hear everything first, pal.
Yeah.
Check our website, btnpodcast.weebly.com. Everything is up there. It's constantly fucking updated. We do stuff all the time. Got even the BTN music sessions and stuff. More music sessions coming soon as well, so look forward to that. Besides the norm on YouTube, we do like daft challenge videos and stuff sometimes. All the podcasts get put up there. And as I say, music sessions and some random stuff could come up at times. But it's a pretty busy YouTube channel, really, for what we do at least. Facebook, besides the norm podcast, it's fairly simple. And at BTN Pod on Twitter. And if you want to send us hate mail, as Craig keeps saying, besides the norm at gmail.com.
Please do.
Aye.
It's never happened yet.
It's never happened yet. We've never had any hate
We've
mail.
had zero hate mail.
No. We've had boring mail.
We've had shit
For like
buttered
really,
mail,
really
aye.
boring people, but it's I'm sure the people listening right now aren't boring. I'm assuming.
Aye, people that are listening to an economics podcast are definitely 100%.
They will be.
Not boring at all.
Aye. Whatever. So we never planned to play a last song, but we're going to do it anyway because we managed to play a song right at the end of the debate there. So shout out to Becca, the Van Dammage. There's a track called Golden. Thanks very much everybody for listening. Check us out every Thursday, and if you're into hip hop music at all, every Monday at the same time, 7 till whenever the fuck we finish.
Totally.
Fantastic. This is the Van Dammage with Golden. Cheers very much.
End.